Hello and welcome back. I am DarcyBits. We are moving into our third portion, the red and hopefully green cards, for the second set of our three-set block based on Theros block. This is a complicated intro every time. All of the cards you're going to see today are made by Urza's AI based off of the mana costs and card types, but not subtypes, from Theros, Born of the Gods. Everything else is going to be AI generated. And it's going to fit into our three-set block. If you want to look back, you can see the Gods of Winter, which was the first set. And so the name that we're using today is built off of themes we saw in that set. It is Lords of the Rime, Soldiers of Core, and Dragons. So, with all that said, let's get started. Our first red card is a 5-mana red creature, a Goblin Artificer named Polukranos' Flamekin, which is an amazing name. It's a 3/3. Whenever Polukranos' Flamekin attacks, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each creature defending player controls. That is actually really cool. I like it a lot. It's 5 mana. How often is it going to be bigger? Not entirely sure, but I think that it scales in such a way that I couldn't tell you what the right mana cost for that is. So I think that's pretty cool. It doesn't have trample or anything, so it might be a little difficult to actually get through. You're just going to get chump blocked by those many 1/1s that your opponent has, but could be cool. Poor tithe farmers. I was hoping to sell their spoiled fruit. Polukranos. So if I recall correctly, Polukranos is like a Hydra, actually from the real Theros block. They're like a Hydra originally, and then they come back as a zombie Hydra in another set. Something like that. Maybe not Theros block. Anyway, I don't know my Magic history. Is this some Goblin Artificer that works for Polukranos, or is this a different Polukranos entirely? It's impossible to know. Let's move on. I do like that as our first card. It is pretty solid. It didn't require a reroll. It's pretty cool. Rythian Veteran is a 3-mana red 3/3 enchantment creature Minotaur Warrior. As I've said previously in this series, we are allowing our type lines to get cut off because the types are just really long, so it's going to happen. I don't want to be too strict about it. A 3-mana 3/3 with trample and red regenerate Rythian Veteran. That seems good to me. I don't know what the going rate for regenerating something is, but it's already a 3-mana 3/3 with trample, and the fact that it's hard to kill, nice. Seems legit to me. One way to avoid bloodshed. Wait. That's one way to avoid bloodshed? I'm not entirely sure what that means, but okay. There's something I want to unpack about being like an enchantment creature. Like, I feel like sometimes that doesn't really get super well touched on, and here it does feel really like they're sort of only half there, maybe. Like, they don't really die because they're sort of like half corporeal, something like that. I don't know. It's interesting. But they're not like a spirit. I don't know. I don't want to spend too much time on each card. We have a lot to get through. Let's get going. Dawn of the Dead is a 3-mana red sorcery. Probably that says choose one at the beginning, but it doesn't say it. So it just has 2 bullets. I think this is just a flat reroll. This card does not actually function as printed, unfortunately, so we cannot confirm how it's supposed to be done. And that's something I want to talk a little bit about, which is just that if you are joining us for the first time now, the cards that I'm scrolling down to have already been generated ahead of time, but I am seeing them for the first time right now. I'm going to try to reroll when things don't function. And I'm going to try to not reroll when they do, but there's a little bit of power smoothing in my own rerolls. It's pretty loosey-goosey for this series. For future ones, I want to try some stricter rules to really see what will happen. Knight of the Dread Hag is a 3-mana red sorcery, destroy target, non-basic land. And as soon as I say that, we end up with something that I am going to reroll. I don't know if this is too strong. It probably isn't. It's probably perfectly reasonable at 3 mana. But we are cutting all land destruction. Especially, like, this is even a non-basic land only. Like, I don't think there's going to be any non-basics in this set. Or this is not great at making them. But we're going to try. But no, I'm going to put a blanket rule on no land destruction. It's just, in my experience with AI Magic, it can get a little bit out of hand, so we're just gonna use that as a blanket rule. As this night comes to an end, we are reminded of all we have lost. Let the last horrors fade, for we must not return to these dark places again. Bramble Heliquin, clan mother of the White Mane. A lot going on there, but it's non-canon for this set. Reign of Terror. Rain spelt like the stuff that falls from the sky. Reign of Terror is a 3-mana red sorcery. Reign of Terror deals 5 damage to each creature without flying. Okay, that's actually really cool. All damage that would be dealt this turn by creatures with flying becomes dealt as Cascade. Okay, so this card's going to get rerolled because that doesn't mean anything, but I do want to take some time to actually, like, discuss what the heck this means, right? Or not what the heck this means, but if you were using this as inspiration for custom Magic, or, you know, we're an actual designer for Magic, there's something here. This does not have enough rules on the card to make it function. But the idea is saying, all damage that would be dealt this turn by creatures with flying becomes dealt as Cascade. What does that mean? I mean, to me, what this says is, prevent all damage that each creature with flying, you know, when a creature with flying deals damage this turn, prevent that damage, and Cascade for that amount. Cascade being an effect that is when you cast a spell, if some will say Cascade 5 or Cascade 2 or whatever. Or do they have a number, or is it just their mana value? I don't remember how Cascade works. What I'm thinking is, you could Cascade for a number. So if something was like, I'm going to attack and it's going to deal 5 damage to your face, or a creature, you instead prevent that 5 damage, but then you're going to look at cards on the top of your deck until you see one that has 5 or less mana value and cast it for free. Obviously, like, that was not how this card is worded. That's not what this card means, but that's interesting to me. There's something there. Like, you could do that, right? That would be weird. I do like the first half, though. I don't know what the going rate for something effect like that would be. It deals 5 damage to each creature without flying. That's going to destroy a lot of things. But often red wants to be on the ground, so there might not be the best. It might not actually create like a one-sided board wipe in a weird way. It might be worse for you than your opponent. It's cool. I like it. Anyway, we're re-rolling this. Oh, I didn't read the flavor text. A cloud of rain unleashed by the diviner's scrying bowl turns a once peaceful view into a jumbled landscape of destruction. Wilderness Reclamation. Is that a real card? That sounds like it could be. Like, Reclamation Sage is a thing, right? Wilderness Reclamation is a 3-mana red sorcery. Create 2 1/1 red goblin creature tokens, and then it has a loyalty ability. What? A sorcery can't have a loyalty ability. It's not a permanent. +1. Return target creature to its owner's hand if that creature was sacrificed this turn. What? Exiled instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard. There's too many things that don't make sense here. Ooh, this is not a great sign for how well things are gonna go. They dig out a goblin-sized hole, back-breaking, and shovel up a pitiful feast. Exhausted Soldiers is a 3-mana red sorcery. Exhausted Soldiers deals 2 damage to each opponent, and you gain 2 life. I don't know what the going rate for that effect is. It probably should be an instant at very least. We're gonna keep it. We gotta move on. And it's not bad, right? It's some burn, it's some heal. There's a lot of things that key off of life gain in the set. I'm okay with it. The pride of their regiment had no place in their shattered lives. I will say, I think Exhausted Soldiers is actually a really good name for a Magic the Gathering spell. Right? Something that's just like, oh, we're fighting so long, the soldiers are getting exhausted. You could do something to, like, represent, like, the enemy soldiers weakening. But this card doesn't actually do that. This card is just some damage and some healing. It doesn't... there's not really a matchup of flavor there, but it is a cool name otherwise. Farika's Guildmage. I do not remember who Farika is, but I've seen that name before. A 4-mana, red, 2/2 Ogre Shaman. Cool. For 3 mana, Farika's Guildmage gets +1/+0 until end of turn. This isn't good enough. No. No, no. It's a shame. Sounds cool. Ogre Shaman, I'm into it. You must fight alongside your companions if you are to serve Farika at all. Farika. I wonder how that's pronounced. I feel like I'm saying it wrong. It seems inaccurate the way I'm saying it. Charging Rhino. I've definitely seen, not just, I don't know if this is a real card or not, but I've definitely seen the AI come up with a card called literally Charging Rhino before. Charging Rhino is a 4-mana, red, 3/2 Elemental Warrior, and it has Fire Breathing. Spend a red to get +1/+0 until end of turn. I mean, it's not exciting, but I think it's like a kind of a decent common. Like, yeah, you'd play this in Limited. Okay. Sure. Elemental Warrior. It's like energy in the shape of a rhino, but it doesn't count as a rhino for anything that cares about that. Yeah, I can see it. The shock of her blades and the power of her charge are as great as the roar of the thunderheads. It is interesting how Magic likes to use the word warrior kind of to mean like person in a weird way, right? Like a cat is just a cat, but a cat warrior is like an anthropomorphic cat person. You know what I mean? So it is interesting. Yeah, but let's keep it. Seems fine to me. Works out. Ambuscade. I feel like I've seen a card called Ambuscade before, made by the AI. For a single red mana, you get an enchantment, aura, enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has haste. Whenever enchanted creature attacks, defending player loses 2 life. That feels like a lot for 1 mana. That's a lot for what? Is that too much for 1 mana? I like it. I think it's fun, and honestly, the power level is different in AI Magic than real Magic, so I think it's okay. How brutal is this? On turn 2, what are you doing? Playing a 1/1 that doesn't have haste and giving it +1/+1 and haste, and then it attacks, and it's going to deal its own damage +2 damage, because it just deals damage straight to their face. If they have no blockers, and that's something, but otherwise, like, I don't know. I feel like it's not coming down, even though it's 1 mana, it's not coming down until you already have a body, like, to enchant. So it's a little bit slower than it looks, even though it's giving that haste. Like, the opponent has time to, like, have some blockers by then. I don't think it's going to be too terrible. Still strong, don't get me wrong. I think it's a very good card. What is the good of haste if we don't need to fight? Elgod. Breaker of Chains. I agree. Why are we fighting so often in this game? Where are my alternate win conditions where I can just have a bunch of people and the game's like, yeah, you won because everyone's happy. I know those exist in Magic. I haven't seen any in AI yet, though. That'd be fun. Bridge Courier is a 2-mana red 2/2 enchantment creature giant. Nice. It has flying. Weird. Bridge Courier gets +1/+0 as long as you control another bridge. It can't be blocked except by creatures with flying or reach. Okay. Let's talk about this for a second. So my gut instinct is to look at that and go, oh, it's got broken reminder text, but it actually does have flying. The reminder text is just in the wrong spot. It's still true that it can't be blocked except by creatures with flying or reach. So yeah, I think that's fine. Otherwise, I like the idea of having a bridge. A bridge being, I guess, a type of land, maybe? That's kind of cool. We're never gonna... Well, we could. So we're defining the type for our lands, right? The card type is land, but the subtypes are not being defined. So if the AI wants to make up a land that's a bridge, it could. That might happen. I don't know. But even without it, like, what is this? It's a 2-mana 2/2 with flying? That's an enchantment? Yeah, I'd play this. I'd play this. Yeah, of course. Yeah, this is great. It's not, like, amazing, but I definitely would play this. I'd play this in a lot of decks. Probably not just limited. They leap the mountains, then leap. Wait, no. They leap the mountains, then lead their charges into battle. I kind of love this, right? I think that basically every giant should have reach, to be honest, right? They're huge. What are you doing flying over a giant? The idea that's like, no, this is like a giant that can, like, jump really high. This is like Superman giant, where they can jump tall buildings in a single bound. I'm into it. That's why they count as flying. Cool. No, that's excellent. Let's keep going. Arcanist's Array is a 2-mana red instant. You gain 1 life for each creature you control. Also, cycling 2. This card's beautiful. This card's beautiful. I don't know how much you want to pay for life gain, but again, life gain does have payoff in the set. So cool. 2, if you have no creatures on board, you can just cycle this. Good use of cycling. Love it. A Wizard's Mirror shows the secrets of time. Cool. Clean design. Clean, clean, clean. What's the going rate for that effect? No idea. Kothafed Destroyer is a 4-mana... I'd forgotten. So Theros has a theme of devotion, right? Number of colored mana pips on a permanent. That's why there's so many, like, high devotion cards in this set, of course. Even though this is an instant, it's not a permanent, but whatever. I haven't really been commenting on how many colored pips are in these mana costs. I'm just saying the mana value and then the color, but whatever. Important, but not the most important thing. Kothafed Destroyer is a 4-mana red instant. Kothafed Destroyer deals damage to target creature equal to the number of mountains you control. Ooh. It can only hit creatures. Huh. Wow. I like this. I think this is kind of weak, probably. Like, you'd rather just kill it with, like... I mean, we're in red, so you don't have the absolute destruction of a murder spell like black does. But this is pretty close. Cool. I don't know. Yeah. It's a little bit more expensive. It's still instant speed. It's gonna kill most things, because you're gonna have mountains. At least 4, probably, if you're playing mono red. I mean, if you're not playing mono red, then it's worse. But you're going to want to play this in a mono red deck. It cares about your mountains. Like, it doesn't really matter that it costs 3 red, because that's where you're going to want to play it. No, this card's great. Not all rivers are of gold. Ulgadar, Warrior Priest. What a weird thing to specify. I feel like most people don't think rivers are all made of gold. That's the rarity, not the rule. Life from the Loam is a 3-mana red enchantment. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, there is cycling in this set. Also a little bit of discard, but cool. There's actually some cycling. We just saw one. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, you may pay a generic mana. If you do, Life from the Loam deals 1 damage to target creature. Do I like this? I think I do. It's a little bit expensive to get online, and it only deals 1 damage, but that's kind of cool. It's a cool effect. I think this is probably too expensive to really be, like, good, but I could definitely imagine, like, there's that style of MTG player who looks at this card and goes, ooh, I can make a really weird janky against the odds deck for this, right? I like it. I think it's cool. I think it's a cool, like, it makes you want to try a deck that's probably bad, but is fun anyway. That's, like, my favorite kind of Magic. No amount of aerialism could diminish its potency. What is that word? A-E-I-R-A-L-I-S-M. It makes me think of that word for dreams, but it's not O, it's A. Anyway, this is neither here nor there. Cut that. Dark Clan Enforcer is a 4-mana, 3/2 red goblin shaman. Cool. It has haste. When Krark Clan Enforcer enters the battlefield, if a creature you control died this turn, create a 1/1 red goblin creature token with haste. Huh, okay, interesting. So, first and foremost, 4 mana, 3/2 with haste. Is that an okay rate? It might be. I'm not 100% sure how valuable haste is considered in the arithmetics of a card's balance. But seems pretty okay, right? You're paying a little bit extra for about the same with vanilla, but then you get haste. Yeah, cool. Then, if something died, you replace it with another goblin. Now, this matters if you care about things where, like, creatures entering the battlefield matters to you, or if goblins are more useful to you than whatever the thing that died was. Or maybe you have sacrificed things, so you got value out of that thing that died already. Cool. I'm very into it. The goblins feared the rage of their new weapons more than they feared their masters. What? The goblins feared the rage of their new weapons. The weapon... Okay, so the goblins have a new master. Maybe like a dragon or something. I could imagine that. Oh, wait! Do we keep that Polukranos card? So Polukranos is the master of goblins, and it has... Right, that guy was an artificer. There's a goblin artificer working for Polukranos, equipping weapons to the other goblins. The goblins themselves are using the weapons but are terrified of them? Okay, I'm into this. This is cool. Riptide Regulator is a 4 mana red 2/2 dragon. It has flying. Okay, so it's expensive, but it has flying. And for 3 mana, Regulator... Not Riptide Regulator, but that's fine. Shortened names are a thing that exist in Magic. Regulator gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Activate only when teaching. This is bad. This is bad. It's a 4 mana 2/2 with flying that you can spend 3 to make into a 3/2. It acts as if the crash site was only moments away from becoming the ocean. Let's try that one again. Oh, even a dragon. Nice. Sandstorm Drake is a 4 mana, 4/3 red dragon with flying. Whenever Sandstorm Drake attacks, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Okay. Yeah, this is a nice little, like, common dragon. If you have a deck that cares about dragons, you're going to have that benefit. It's not the most exciting dragon I've ever seen, but it's not bad and limited, and it might... Maybe there's an archetype that cares about how many dragons you have, right? So 4 mana for a 4/3 that when it attacks is a 5/3, and it has flying. Cool. I think it checks out. They call the torrent the drenching, but it's really the desert shocker. What? All right. Sure. Siege Warlord is a 6 mana, 7/6 red elemental. For some reason, the AI just, like, hates giving you actual big bodies when you have high mana cost. I'm excited. 7/6 for 6? Not bad. It's got Vigilance, okay. And at the beginning of your end step, if you have 7 or more cards in your graveyard, draw a card. Then, if you do, sacrifice Siege Warlord. This card is cool. What? Oh. Okay. So this is like a big guy. 7/6 for 6 with Vigilance. Maybe it could be cheaper. I think probably with the downside that we're seeing here. But just like this big thing that is able to hit really hard until you have too much stuff in your graveyard, right? I kind of wish this said have 7 or more, like, creature cards in your graveyard. Wait, I misread this card. It says at the beginning of your end step, if you have 7 or more card types in your graveyard, draw a card and sacrifice this. Okay, so I'm going to think about whether or not you can have 7 or more card types. Let's talk about this for a second. But, ignoring that, I like this, right? The idea of something that says, like, I'm going to hit really hard until a certain condition, and then I'm going to die. In consolation for me dying, you get to draw a card, though. That's a really clean design. How many card types do we have? We've got creature, land, enchantment, artifact, instant, sorcery, planeswalker? I don't know if I'm forgetting anything, but that's 7. I love this. This card's so cool. Oh, this card's amazing. I mean, I think the other way is more interesting. I wish it said 7 or more creature cards. I think that would be really cool. Like, as things die, this thing eventually, like, expires. But here it's just like, don't put 7 card types in your deck. Like, that's not hard to do. So, less interesting, I think. Still cool. No. The other way, right? Like, the other way when I was saying it could be cheaper, I was thinking it could be cheaper because you will probably eventually hit that limit and it's hard to avoid. So it has like an expiration date. And I think that'd be really cool. Whereas here, nah, this is probably too cheap, honestly, for its effect. But I think it's fine. I think 7/6 for vigilance for 6 is probably okay. His voice could drive a city to the brink of destruction. Or an elemental called Siege Warlord. This is cool. I like this card. Orzhov Battle Crowd. Ooh, I do love a card that represents a group. Orzhov Battle Crowd is a 2-mana 2/2 Minotaur. As long as it's your turn, Orzhov Battle Crowd gets +2/+2 and has vigilance. Oh! This card's so cool! It's a group of Minotaur. Minotaur. Whatever. A bunch of Minotaur. And like... it's so interesting. Yeah, so it's a group of Minotaur. On your turn, it attacks as a 4/4, but it doesn't tap because it has vigilance. And then it blocks as a 2/2. Cool! I'm not sure what the flavor there is. I think it's something about, like, on your turn you can rally the crowd, but on your opponent's turn they'll, like, run away or something. I don't know. A few of them stand back and are vigilant, but the rest leave. Once there was a champion of wrath, but the crowds were many, and the glory less, and the crowd never grew wary. Weary? Wary. Weary. Wary means something different. I like that card. The inclusion of the word Orzhov throws me, but you get used to it when you've made a lot of AI cards. It's whatever. Goblin Moaner. That's... okay. Goblin Moaner is a 3-mana red 1/1 goblin with first strike. It can tap to get +1/+0 until end of turn. Oh, okay, sure. I'm gonna reroll this, but that's fun. I mean, is this ever relevant? I mean, first strike is just... sometimes putting first strike or trample or whatever on a 1/1 is very funny because you can eventually give it, like, buffs with, like, you know, combat tricks and stuff, like instant speed spells. But not for 3 mana, right? He looks down from his golden throne at all the ugly goblins below. Then he starts laughing. Like, this could block, interestingly, in that, you know, you can assign blockers and then tap, and so they're blocking as a 2/1, but they have first strike, so they're going to be able to trade with a 2. But not for 3 mana. Not for 3 mana. Vindicator of Core. Ooh, interesting. And this isn't a core card, this is a goblin. There's some sort of tension between core and goblins? Vindicator of Core is a 3-mana 2/2 red goblin warrior. Whenever Vindicator of Core or another creature you control dies, create a 2/2 red goblin creature token. Okay, so if anything you have dies, it turns into a goblin instead. If those goblins die, because it doesn't say non-token creature, they get replaced by another goblin. So you have to kill this guy. But that's doable, and they're a 2/2. No, this card's cool. It could probably afford to be a bit more expensive, but I don't mind it at 3 mana. If we want the city, we have to go through the goblins. so we better go to work. Yarok, City Protector. Dragons, goblins. Goblins fighting core? Let's continue. Rift Rage. Rift Rage is a great name for a spell. Rift Rage is a 4-mana red instant. Rift Rage deals 3 damage to target creature and each creature blocking it this combat. What? Huh. So, bare minimum, 4 mana, 3 damage, not very exciting. Cool. If I attack with like an 8/8, and you block me with like, 4 2/2s, before damage, and I cast Rift Rage for 4 mana, I will deal 3 damage to my 8/8, knocking it down to 5 remaining for the turn, because again, toughness heals back up, any damage goes away at the end of turn if you don't die. But all the 2/2s blocking the 8/8 will take 3 damage each, because they're blocking the creature I targeted. That also means it gets around hexproof and stuff, because you're not targeting your opponent's stuff, you're targeting your thing. This card is weird but cool. I'm okay with it. If you're playing in a setting that cares about or knows about the meta, then people might be afraid of blocking your big thing with a bunch of small things. So if you want to play around this, it adds those extra playing around the cards might be in your opponent's hand game. But otherwise, it's not super blatantly useful because it's kind of a specific situation and you don't have control over that situation. Still, it's cool. I like this card a lot. Yeah, I'm just making sure I'm not reading it wrong because it's weird. Deals 3 damage to target creature and each creature blocking it this combat. I think that should be right because the blockers are declared even though the damage hasn't happened yet. Yeah. And then when they die, they will no longer deal their damage, so your guy will still survive. At the cost of taking 3 in the first place. But that's the best situation to be using this anyway, because that's the one that requires a bunch of blockers to trade with it. Right? Yeah. If the man with a plan is struck, the fool can always defend. Ugin, Jadestone Seer. Weird. Ward of Stone is a 1-mana 2/1 enchantment creature human soldier. Ward of Stone enters the battlefield tapped. So this is the extremely worse version. It's the opposite of the Swift Spear person, whatever their name is. That one people know. That's a 2/1 with haste, right? Is this good enough? I mean, human's an important typing. Soldier's an important typing. Might be worth it, even though it's not very good. If you're gonna play this on turn 1, if this was just 1 mana for a 2/1, nothing else, vanilla, would I keep that card? Because this is just worse than that. That's what I have to ask myself. I think I'm gonna re-roll it. I think this card is printable. You could have this in your common spot and not really worry about it too much. It'd be fine for a limited or a draft environment. But it's not exciting, and we're here to see cool cards. It seems that we are well protected here for now. Echoer of Dragons. Okay, I do want to know what Echoer of Dragons is, but oh well. Not worth that card for it. Fell Nightshade is a 1-mana 1/1 enchantment creature shapeshifter. Ooh, there's actually a decent number of shapeshifters in the set, and I think all of them are enchantments. By the set, I mean the block, because I'm including what I remember from Gods of Winter. Oh, dang it. Okay. So, I don't think an enchantment creature doesn't work that way. I don't think I can enchant a creature. I need to look up the rules on this, honestly. Is there something that prevents an enchantment that doesn't have aura and is a creature from enchanting something, right? Bestow is a mechanic that allows you to cast a enchantment creature and in a specific way that it loses the creature type and gains the aura type. And that implies that those typings are not just descriptive tags, but they actually mean something, right? Like maybe those things are not possible without being an aura and without not being a creature. I'm not sure. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each basic land type among lands you control. This is so cool. A rare beast glows with wild, ardent, greenish light. I think we have to re-roll this, unfortunately. Everyone say goodbye to Fel Nightshade. It's cool, though, because it's like a shapeshifter. I like the idea of enchantment creatures that are shapeshifters. Like, that's just a really fun combination of words. Molten Giants is a 1-mana 2/2 enchantment creature goblin warrior. What? Okay, I kind of like the idea of, like, these are not giants. These are, like, some kind of goblin thing that's, like, maybe, like, effigies of giants or something. Like, molten, I don't know. Sacrifice Molten Giants. Target creature you control gains indestructible to turn. This card's rad. This card's probably too good, but, like, not compared to stuff we've seen in this set. I'm fine keeping this. 1-mana 2/2? Who cares? That's fine. Sacrifice this to give something indestructible? Cool. No, I love this. This card's great. The giants would surely melt before the metal fire of these mountain dwarves. Dwalin. Ooh. So there were a few dwarves in the last set, and they were all blue for some reason. I don't know why. I thought it was kind of cool. Interesting. I don't fully know what this card means, but I'm interested. And I don't think it just, like, inherently is... Like, sometimes you look at a card and you're just like, that just doesn't work. That just doesn't mean anything. And you move on, and it's a little disappointing. That card, that gets my brain going. I think there's something there. Oathsworn Paladin is a 4-mana red 4/4 dragon. What? Okay, this reads like a Dragonborn from Forgotten Realms, which I still don't think the Dragonborn from a Forgotten Realm should count as dragons. I don't. If you're gonna count Dragonborn as dragons, you should count Tieflings as demons, wizards. Anyway, Tiefling's its own type, but Dragonborn isn't it? Stupid. I'm still mad about that. Anyway, that's what this reads as, but no, for us it's a dragon. It's a dragon who is also a paladin. It's badass. For 2 mana, generic into red, Oathsworn Paladin gains indestructible until end of turn. Otherwise a 4. So, 4 mana 4/4, you spend 2 to make it indestructible. This is not the most exciting dragon. I'm okay with it though. It's cool, it's interesting, there's some evocative flavor going on, and it's not like bad. Like, I'd play this. Cool. Leave 2 mana open, makes it hard to get rid of. Could this just be a 4 mana 4/4 that's indestructible? Yeah, probably not. That seems a bit too strong. So no, I'm happy with this. Even my old sire cannot speak as the hollow rises. What? Oh, the halo. As the halo rises. Raji, Captain of the White Crane. Cool. Ritual Sorcerer is a 5-mana 2/2 human wizard. Ritual spells... Is Ritual a card type? Because I want it to be. It's not, right? When people say Ritual, it's a player-base slang term to mean a card that gives you more mana than it costs to play it, right? But that's not a real thing. It should be a real thing. Anyway, Ritual spells you cast generic, less to cast. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you may return target creature you control to its owner's hand. So, the first line doesn't do anything. There is no card type that I know of, maybe I'm wrong, that is a ritual. But it doesn't actually break any rules, right? This is like when you crank a gear flogger or whatever, then do a XYZ. I don't remember how that card works. The one from Future Sight where it referenced rules that don't exist, right? And... okay. Ritual spells might not exist, but that doesn't mean that they couldn't. This is a legal effect to apply to ritual spells if they did exist. I don't mind that. So the second line, whenever you cast a creature spell, you may return target creature you control to its owner's hand. That's interesting. It is rarely going to be useful. I first read that, I thought it bounced your opponent's stuff. It lets you kind of swap out your things. Like, you'd rather like an ninjutsu effect, but still, like... I'm going to play this thing with an ETB and then bounce something else with an ETB, and then I'm going to cast the thing with the ETB and bounce the thing with the other ETB. Like, again, this is one of those situations where I think this card is bad, but it facilitates something interesting. And if you can take advantage of that interesting, like, facilitation, right? Like, just being able to do something that you otherwise couldn't do is valuable, even if it's usually not worth 5 mana. I'm going to allow it. At bare minimum, it's a 2/2 for 5 mana. Whatever. It's interesting. It's one of those, like, weird mythics that nobody actually wants, but, like, every once in a while there's someone who's like, I can build something weird around this, and they're like, it's mythic? Ah, dang it, I won't bother. That's why I hate mythics that are really cool like that, where it's like, can't you put the janky thing in, like, a cheaper card slot? Come on. It's not going to work anyway. Let me play with it. Anyway. We bring peace, but only with an axe to the root of evil. Interesting. Rise of a New Sun is a 6-mana red sorcery. Search your library for up to X basic land cards. X is the number of land permanents you control. Usually you'd say lands, but that works. Reveal those cards, put them into your hand, then shuffle. Okay, for 6 mana, I don't think so. If this went directly into the battlefield, that would be terrifying ramp, and I'd be really interested, and it would probably be too powerful. But into your hand, not so much. There are some cards that do care about how many cards are in your hand, so it might be interesting as a way of, like, activating that, but I think 6 mana is too much for this effect. It's a cool card. I feel a little bit bad re-rolling it, because it's so interesting. Do not go down. It will be like fighting your own shadows. Makindi. Toil of the Demon Hunters. Now, I just want, like, it's just like a really interesting idea of, like, okay, you get to double your lands, but you have to play them, which I think is cool. It lets you actually sort of... Is this too bad? Is this actually... I'm not convinced, actually. This might be good still. I might keep this. 6 mana is a lot of mana, but it thins out your deck. Like, late game... You might be happy to be like, I'm going to play this for 6. I think the fix for this card is either put one of them into the battlefield and the rest into your hand, and draw a card. I think those two would make this card actually really interesting. Here, it is probably not playable. But it is interesting, right? If I have 5 lands, or if I have 6 lands, if I play this on turn 6, I'm going to cut another 6 from my deck, right? And I don't want to be drawing any more lands. I have 6 lands in my hand. I'm probably not going to draw any more lands, and I won't need any more lands for the rest of the game. Cool. Okay. Yeah. The big downside of this card is that it's like a sorcery, and you're probably not going to... I mean... I guess that's fine. Like, if your hand is empty and you play this, you probably are still going to get your natural card play, or, like, land play this turn. Maybe you will have to discard. Maybe you won't. Maybe you want to discard. This card's cool. I don't know. It's cool. It's interesting. It lets you do something cool. I like it. Okay, let's move on. Spent enough time thinking about that one. No, I'm glad I came around to it, though. It's a really interesting design, even if, who's to say if it's good? They don't all have to be good. Not every card in a set is good. Reckless Brawler is a 2-mana, 2/1 red human barbarian. As Reckless Brawler enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Whenever a creature card of the chosen type dies, holy crap, they did it. They actually used the choice that you made. As Reckless Brawler enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Whenever a creature of the chosen type dies, Reckless Brawler deals 1 damage to that creature's controller. Huh. Right, it's not whenever a creature of the chosen type you control dies. So you're not choosing the cards on your side of the table. You're choosing the type on your opponent is using. This is such a cool tech card against, like, creature type based decks, right? Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. So if your opponent is playing like a soldier-based deck or a core-based deck, you could be like, cool, yeah, I don't have any cores or soldiers in my deck. I only have humans and barbarians. I'm going to name core, and every time you have a core and I kill one, you get pinged in the face. This card's cool, and it's still a 2-1 for 2. It's not terrible. I like this card a lot. This is a really cool design. I want some. More. No, I have had just enough. So it's a very fine line between wanting more and having enough. That's great. Bind is a 2-mana red instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, reveal a creature card from your hand or pay a generic. If you revealed a creature card this way, draw a card. Okay, I just want to talk a little bit about this style of card. I've seen the AI do this before, and I absolutely love when the game is like, here's an additional cost, right? Or alternate cost. Those are cool too. It doesn't do it too often, but sometimes it does, right? And the idea of saying like, do you have a creature card in your hand, and are you willing to show it to your opponent? I think that is one of the most interesting like costs to play a spell. I think it's so cool. And then if you can't, you can still play the card. It's just more expensive. I love that. Unfortunately, this card doesn't really do anything, right? It's only if you bothered to reveal the creature card. If you only paid the additional cost, it does literally nothing. And then even if you do, it just draws you a card, right? So if that was the text, and then it also had an actual spell effect in addition, this card would be really cool. But it does not. I just wanted to take a moment to talk about, like, I love that little structure of the additional cost section, because I've seen it a few times, and it's always really interesting. But usually doesn't actually pay out, unfortunately. The Indentured Wait for 1 of 3 appointments. Appointments? Okay. Grisly Death is a 2-mana red instant. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. If it's a creature card, okay, Grisly Death deals damage equal to its power to that creature. Do both if the creature has multiple powers. Okay, I think I'm going to allow this. Like, this is a 2-mana resurrect at instant speed. Probably I shouldn't. Actually, maybe I won't. Now that I say that out loud, maybe I won't. But the idea of saying resurrect a creature, has to be your graveyard, can't be your opponent's. Then Grisly Death deals damage equal to, I'm assuming, the creature's power to the creature. So if you have symmetrical power and toughness, it just dies, like, dead, right? Otherwise, it takes a whole bunch of damage, gets marked on it, and potentially your opponent could, like, ping it before the damage heals, right? It's definitely too strong. No, I take it back. I like the design of this card a lot. I'm curious how you could balance this, right? The idea of saying, like, just completely, it can only hit things that aren't symmetrically statted. They need to have more toughness than power. That's cool. That's an interesting restriction. Not so interesting that it makes it worth only 2 mana instead of being more expensive. Additionally, if you do succeed at that, right, and you end up doing, like, I resurrected a 5/6 and it gets pinged down to 1 toughness remaining, is there any response that your opponent can do? And the answer is, like, not really. Like, if your opponent has a way of pinging it, sure, but you will know if they do or not, probably. They either won't have open mana or they won't have something on board that can do that sort of effect. And there's no lasting repercussions, right? If this was something like put X -0 -1 counters on it where X is that creature's power, that would be interesting, right? That would be super interesting. This, I don't think so. It's cool, but I think it's too cheap. If this was like 4 mana, I think maybe even if this was 3, I might allow this. I mean, how cheap does Resurrection get to? Their agony is the most efficient disposal method. Golgari Trader. I want to keep this card. It's so cool. Did I give black any stupidly powerful... Did I allow black to have stupidly powerful resurrection? Am I being inconsistent with my rulings? Was there something more broken than this? There might have been. Oh well. Let's continue. Try again, unfortunately. That card was cool, though. Sands of Fate is a 2-mana red instant. Reveal any number of red or blue instants and or sorcery cards in your hand. Sands of Fate deals damage equal to that many times the amount of mana spent to cast it. This card is cool, but functionless. Okay, let's break this down. First of all, it's a 2-mana spell. So, if you're dealing X times 2 at bare minimum. If you discount it, like some effects do, you're not multiplying it by 2, you're multiplying by 1. Cool. And then, if there's some sort of a tax effect, you can actually multiply it by 3 or 4. And that could be really interesting. But, I have more to say about that. And the initial X value is the number of instant sorceries in your hand. They have to be red, they have to be blue. Which is a really cool build-around, right? The idea of having a deck that tries to get a huge hand full of instants and sorceries, but not playing them so you can reveal them and just, like, do... 20 damage. That's super cool. I'm very interested in that. But it doesn't have a target. It just says deals damage equal to that many times the amount of mana spent to cast it. There's no target on the card. So it doesn't know what to deal the damage to. What a shame. It'd probably be... I wonder how you'd actually balance this. Like, if you assumed it was, like, to any target, if we just slapped that on the end, then I think it'd be too strong, because at the beginning of the game, when your hand is still full of 7 cards, you can play this for 2 mana and just, like, do 14 damage, potentially. You wouldn't do 14 damage. It's probably not even that strong, but it's a lot of damage, just out of nowhere. If you're playing it near the end of the game and you had to actually manage your hand the whole game, that's interesting. So I kind of want this to cost, like 5 mana, but then it's, like, deal damage equal to, that many times the amount of mana spent to cast it minus 3, which is stupid. Now it's just getting really dumb math-wise. Like, I don't think cards should have that much arithmetic going on, but I don't know. Anyway, I need to re-roll this. I almost forgot to re-roll it. Thanos in flight? Not yet. Brunor Battlehammer. I think I know Brunor. Isn't Brunor the sample D&D character in D&D 5? Is that right? Flight of the Loot is a 2-mana instant... red instant. You gain 1 life for each swamp you control. Okay, so it has reminder text that doesn't mean anything. It just says damage causes loss of life, which is a true fact. I'm not gonna fault them for just stating something true about the game. I can't tell if I like this. So this is that other card we saw. Didn't we already see one card that did that did life gain based on mountains or something? Or was that damage based on mountains? Either way, I think this is kind of an interesting symmetrical to that, except for this is also red. I don't know. The idea of saying, like, this is a card that can only be used in a red-black deck feels weird. And I don't know why that feels weird. Like, cards that just have the mana cost red and black exist. How is this less weird than that? Or more weird than that, I guess I should say. I don't know. I'm going to reroll it. I don't think I need to. I think it's perfectly, like, playable, but... The days of Odium's tyranny are long past. but his power still festers beneath the mud. Avon River's Ripple. 2 mana, red instant. Creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. At the beginning of each end step, like what, from now until the end of the game, create a +2, not +2, create a 2/2 red dragon creature token with flying. So, if this was an enchantment, this card would function, right? Except for it wouldn't function because it says until end of turn. Yeah, I can't have it both ways. This card is surprisingly, being surprisingly difficult. For now, your fear is still useful, but when I open the suns, you'll look back and wonder. Braum, the Tinderborn. Yeah, that card just didn't function. It's a shame, too, because it's kind of an interesting idea. You know, or like the beginning of the next end step, make a 2/2. Jaya's Immolating Injection. That's an amazing name. I've barely ever seen the AI talk about Jaya. The AI loves to talk about, like, canon characters, but I don't think I've ever heard them talk about Jaya before. Jaya's Immolating Injection is a 2 mana red instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may reveal a creature card from your hand. If you do, create a 2/2 red and green insect creature token with Death Touch. So, what does this mean? This is a 2 mana, 2/2 insect creature token with Death Touch that requires you to have that creature card in hand at the time of casting. And it has flash, I guess, because it's an instant. That's not bad, actually. Like, the more I mean, I wonder what the going rate for that exact effect is. But, like, the fact that you can just be like, cool, instant speed, you've declared attackers, I'm going to spend 2 mana to make a Death Touch creature. That's a big deal, right? Like, that's going to get you some really good, cheap removal. Cool, I like it. It could probably stand to be 1 mana instead of 2, but I don't mind it at 2. Jaya can work magic at the drop of a hat. Moving on, we got there. Dueling Gnomes is a 2 mana and 2/1 enchantment creature goblin. It's vanilla. It has no card text. Okay. The Jundo Jugglers became the kings of Gutterland, attracting throngs of fans with their chaotic antics and remarkable dexterity. I mean, that's some amazing, just like, one sentence world building right there. Cool. I want to see a set about the Jundo Jugglers in Gutterland now. Oh well. World Rider. What? Okay, it said a different card and then it glitched out. Oh well. That happens sometimes. Lore Santhal Commander is a 2 mana, 2/1 red enchantment creature human wizard. Whenever you cast a spell, target creature you control gets +1/+1 till end of turn. That is probably too strong, but not blatantly too strong, which is exactly where I like it. A name means little. What does the little bell next to your door mean? Cool. Solid card. Have no issues with this. Casting spells, making this enchantment creature buff everybody. Yeah, feels cool. Or not everybody, one creature. It's a single creature you control. It's not all creatures. If it was all creatures, I would probably reroll this. That's probably too much. That's probably too much. Fire Cannon Knight is a 3 mana 1/1 human wizard. You can tap to give target creature +1/+0 until end of turn. No. No. This would be kind of cool with just like that, like fire breathing, but it puts it on somebody else. I think that'd be interesting. No, I mean, I don't have a lot to say about this. It's a 3 mana for a 1/1 that taps to give a single +1 to something else. I don't know. Let them watch me die with all the grace I can muster. Yeah, I guess. Assault Pioneer is a 3-mana 2/3 Goblin Warrior. It's another vanilla. Wow, okay. I do want to say I'm totally open to keeping vanilla cards in the set. I think vanilla cards are good to have sometimes, but they gotta be cool. A 2/3 for 3 is not. Able to fight as either a goblin or a knight, depending on what's handy. They are not a knight, however. Unfortunately. Skirk Bomber is a 3-mana 2/2 Goblin Berserker. Haste, Skirk Bomber can't block. Huh, am I okay with this? I do not know what the... I've said this a lot of times. I don't know what the going rate for haste is. But, yeah, it's got a downside of can't block. It's got an upside of haste. You probably don't care too much about the downside because you're going to be attacking with it. It's just not interesting enough, I don't think. They never blow their horn of war. What? They never blow their horn to warn of danger. It's a lesson learned in the battle against the Titans. I mean, there's something interesting there that possibly we're missing out on, but oh well. Dramoka Goblin Paladin. Now we have a Goblin Knight. Dramoka Goblin Paladin is a 3-mana 2/2 Goblin Knight. Weird how, like, we don't fix the subtypes, we just fix the card types. Oh, the AI knows to make a creature that's 3 mana. It does not know to make a goblin, and we keep hitting, like, same types. It's cool. I mean, here, like, yeah, you want me to make a small creature and it's red, it's probably a goblin. But still, like, earlier we saw that with a dragon getting rerolled into a dragon. Dramoka Goblin Paladin is a 3-mana 2/2 Goblin Knight. When Dramoka Goblin Paladin enters the battlefield, if you control another multicolored creature, draw a card. Is that good enough? It's a pretty harsh drawback. Well, not drawback, but, like, condition. And all you get is draw a card? I mean, drawing cards are great, don't get me wrong. People love drawing cards. I'm going to pass on this one. His oath to follow his masters even to the grave ends at the Marrow Road. You know, maybe I shouldn't. Just like, I keep saying, it's a whole set. It should have some that aren't super exciting. It should have just kind of some pack filler commons. That's part of set design. If you're playing limited, if I care about goblins, I might want this. 3 mana seems like a lot, though. Like, one of those things about Magic is that the numbers are so small that a single point changed is dramatic. Like, if this was a 2-mana 2/2, this would be fine. It's still not good. Like, a 2-mana 2/2 vanilla is baseline. You want to have some upside to that. But this upside's not very dramatic. And this is 3 mana? Nah. Yeah. I mean, we have other goblins in the set. This isn't... And we might make another one. Risen Scob is a 3-mana 3/2 Goblin Vanilla? What is going on? As a child, I remember our farmers chopping up animals to make more delicious morsels for us. What were they to me? Esri, chieftain of the Ikashan Raiders. Okay. You're finished rendering? Okay, let's roll you again. Frostburn Renegade is a 3-mana 2/1 Goblin Rogue. Frostburn Renegade gets +2/+0 as long as you control another red creature. Okay, how do I feel about this? Well, mostly I feel like you could print a 3-mana 4/1 vanilla and that would be fine. I would be like, that's a perfectly reasonable card. Here, this is a 4/1 if you have another red creature. You probably will. Like, that's likely. So it's not like a huge drawback. I think I'm going to allow it. I just want to move on, and it's cool. You know, it's Season of the Goblin. Little goblin friend. Life is not something that happens to you. It's something you build. Emperor of Kor. Disappointing. Oh well. Set's gotta have some. Guarded by Angels is a 2-mana red sorcery. Okay. Choose one. Put target artifact or enchantment on top of its owner's library. Cool. It's like a bounce, but it also kills your opponent's next draw. That's interesting. Target creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. I like this card. It's really hard to do the math on cards that are as flexible as cards that, you know, the ones that are choose one effects. But none of these seem so bad that they're not worth it. Probably that first one is worth more than 2 mana. I'm not 100% sure if that's true, but I wouldn't be surprised. The other ones are probably not worth 2, but the fact that they're bundled with the other effects. I guess actually what I'm realizing is that the big problem is that this isn't an instant. Oh, actually, yeah, this not being an instant is really bad. Because you rarely care about giving something +2/+0 or +1/+1 before, like, in a main phase. Ah, that's really disappointing. If this was instant, it would actually be really solid, I think. I like the idea that you can either get something +2/+0 or +1/+1. Like, that's a fun little, like, which one do you do? There is much we can do with our power and magic. There is much we can see. Elspeth Tyrell, Captain of the Guard. Let's try again. Dragons in Flame. Nope, it's Crown of Succession. Dang it. What Oh well, I don't know. The other card might have been bad. Who knows? I mean, you could. It probably rendered and you could pause. I don't know. Crown of Succession is a 2-mana red sorcery with buyback to generic. Let's just make sure the rider text is correct. You may pay an additional 2 generic as you cast the spell. If you do, put this card into your hand as it resolves instead of the graveyard. We've seen buyback in the set before. I have allowed it. I think buyback is cool and is probably very hard to balance, but it's interesting, and I think that's fun. Yeah, I just think it's cool. So, I'm not strictly against including it. There's precedent. We'll see if it works. Choose target creature you control. That creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. If it's your turn, draw a card. Okay. 2 mana, give something +1, draw a card. It's going to be your turn unless you have some way of giving sorceries flash, so that's interesting. That's a perfectly reasonable little cantrip, right? I don't know if that's exactly what you want to be paying for that effect, but if you care about cycling through instants and sorceries, right, spell slinging, having a small effect that draws a card is sometimes all you care about because you're activating your other effects. Cool. If you spend 4 mana on it, it's like you're giving something +1/+0 and kind of drawing 2 cards. 4 mana, draw 2. Okay. Now, I know that conceptually, because you know that one of the 2 that you're drawing will let you draw 2. Again, we're treating the card going back into your hand as drawing, right? Since you know that one of those 2 cards will get you draw again, if you have enough mana, you can just draw your entire deck. I'm okay with it. Now they know who holds the throne. Now they understand the meaning of victory. Keldon Vex. I mean, here's the thing, right? Is if you have found a way to produce infinite mana, that was the thing that was broken in your combo, right? The fact that you're able to do that in the first place is the problem. Here, if you have, like, I don't know, it's like turn 8 and you've got 8 lands, you can do it twice. Like, okay, it's fine. Do it twice. Dispatch is a 2-mana red instant. Create a 1/1 red elemental creature token for each swamp you control. Okay! This one's actually interesting. So, I don't have a problem with the card being explicitly red-black. I know I sort of talked about that earlier. I'd prefer it to be a red card that has a benefit if you also are playing black. That would be my preference, but that's okay. Red-black is an archetype in the set. We've seen that in Gods of Winter, that red-black has been encouraged by certain cards, so that's fine. You're going to have about, you know, if you're going a hard cut between red and black, you probably have about half as many swamps as you do mountains, depending on the lands that are available in the set. If you play this on turn 2, it does nothing, because you won't have any mountains unless you have some, like, you know, lands that are both swamps and mountains. That can happen. If you play it on turn 3, and you have, you know, 2 mountains and a swamp, that's 3 mana for a single 1/1. That's not good. But if you are getting up to, like, the late game, right? Let's say you've got 4 mountains and 4 swamps, and you play this for 2 mana to make 4 1/1s. That's a pretty good deal. And maybe you've got a second copy of this in your hand. You still have 2 more mountains left to tap for mana, and you make another 4. Yeah. Like, it's cool. It's a very, like, it's not the early game swarmy type of red that you might expect, and I think that's kind of interesting. It is a swarm thing. It is like lots of creatures, lots of bodies. That's a thing that they want to do. But then if you're playing black, you can probably throw in some control tools, right? To sort of make your way to that late game and then have these big explosive turns. Like, I think this is a cool card, and I don't think it's too strong because it's very specific. Like, you can't really use it early game despite the cost. The paths of life and death converge at the whim of the dead god. It does make you wonder, though, like, should this just be costing more? That also means you can't use it early game. But then it's not as brutal late game. I don't know. Maybe. It's cool. Corrupted Minotaur is a 3 mana 2/1 Minotaur warrior. Tap, destroy target creature. Holy crap! Okay, I don't think we can accept just tap, destroy a target creature. I think we have to call a line there. I think I've used that in previous sets, and it's just miserable. Nobody's happy about that. A core courier with a grudge. That's what I wanted to talk about. Previously, we saw, I think, Corrupted Elf, which was a core or something. And I was like, whoa, are core corrupted elves? Is that what core are? This is Corrupted Minotaur. It still has the Minotaur type. It didn't become a core. But maybe it's a core? It says a core courier with a... Like, I'm interested in what that, like, might mean. Then again, I guess it doesn't matter to discuss because it's getting re-rolled and therefore it's not canon. Unfortunately. Arkham Dragson. I thought it said dragon at first. It does not say dragon. It says Dagson. Arkham Dagson is a 3 mana 2/2 human wizard. Whenever Arkham Dagson or another non-token creature you control dies, create a 1/1 red goblin creature token with haste. Ooh. Ooh, I like this card. This card's fun. Alright. So previously we saw a card, it was a goblin that made more goblins whenever anything died, I think it was. And this one, it has to be non-tokens that die. So it's not going to just, like, completely spiral off, which is cool. I'm okay with there being one thing that says when all of your goblins die, make more goblins. The problem is when you have 2 of those things, which I guess if you're playing Constructed or you have multiple copies, you could have 2 of them, and that could be scary. Maybe I should have thought about that. Oh well, I didn't. So the idea of having one of them just make extras whenever anything dies, including the tokens it makes, and the other one making only when non-tokens is kind of an interesting... But they're also goblins, which is cool. I like that. And they have haste, which is different. I don't think the other ones had haste. I could be misremembering. So that makes the cards different. I like it. Is it a pard? Yeah. Is it a pard or is it a dagger? I can't decide. Scrap Heap Scrounger is a 6 mana 5/4 dragon with flying. I like the idea of a big dragon that's just rummaging through trash. See, now I want to see, like, modern day, like supernatural style art where it's like there's like a landfill, but it's like a dragon in there, like it's a hoard of gold. I like that imagery. Anyway, sorry, I'm off topic. Whenever a creature an opponent controls with a 1/1 counter on it dies, you may have that creature's controller create a treasure token. Oh. This. Okay, so 6 mana, 5/4 with flying. You want to have an upside at that mana value, I think, generally. The upside is, if your opponent has things with 1/1 counters on them, which it might, that's a thing that happens. If they die, that player, your opponent, gets a treasure token. You don't have to give it to them, but you could. And that, of course, makes me go, can I turn this into an upside? Can I turn this into an upside? Can I give my opponent stuff counters and kill them and give them treasures and then be like, die depending on how many, like, artifacts you have? No, you couldn't do that because your opponent could sacrifice their artifacts in response to that spell that you're talking about. Crap. If only it created tapped treasure tokens. If this card created tapped treasure tokens, this would be so interesting. Because maybe there's a payoff there. Maybe, but here I don't think there is. Unless you also had a card that was like, whenever your opponent sacrifices a like an artifact or something, but that seems... This card's cool. I want to keep it. She haunts the bottom of the scrap heap, helping other vermin rise to power. Like, it's just, this is so cool. Maybe it's bad, and maybe that's okay. Maybe there's something about that. I don't know. I see in chat, my girlfriend is saying politics and Commander. Like, maybe? I want to keep it. It's bad. I want to keep it. It's cool, though. It's just too evocative for me. I want to... This would be even cooler if it was like a legendary. It's like some one specific dragon that's not doing what all the other dragons are, but instead they're giving gold to people. Like, what? Like, ugh. I mean, honestly, probably this is what we were seeing earlier, but dragons supplying goblins with weapons, right? They're giving scrap metal to things that they can then melt down into... Ugh. It's cool. Let's go. I'm not talking about this anymore. Parallax Decree is a 2-mana red enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. You may play it this turn. If you do, Parallax Decree deals 1 damage to each opponent. Okay, I thought it was going to say deals 1 damage to you, and I was going to be like, this card's pretty cool. It's an extra draw every turn, but it's an impulse draw, and if you choose to take the impulse draw, if you end up not using it, then that's fine, but if you play it, you take 1 damage. That seems like a fair payoff. And yet, I'm not inherently like, no, that's too strong now that it's, instead of dealing 1 damage to you, it's dealing damage to your opponent. I think it's still probably okay. Like, it's a very cheap way of getting an extra draw every turn, but you have to play it. Like, it's an impulse draw. What's the like difference in card draw versus impulse card draw cost-wise? I don't know. I know there's like, what, 4, maybe 5 mana spells that let you just draw an extra card every turn, no questions asked. So that's a big difference in mana. And you're pinging for 1. It's probably too strong. It's probably too strong. Even before your feet hit the ground, your eyes can already see where your enemies are coming from. Ugvi, Queen of the Bridge. The thing about this is that I always undervalue just how strong card draw is, to be completely honest, right? I'll have cards in sets that are just like, oh, I mean, this isn't gonna like just win you the game. It's only drawing like 7 cards, and like obviously drawing 7 cards is a stupidly powerful effect, but you still have to draw something good with those 7 draws, right? And then no, you just completely destroyed every single game. Like, just card draw is very strong. I'm going to allow it. I don't think I've, like, let through stupidly broken things in red often enough compared to the other colors. Let's move on. Battle of Whispers is a 6-mana red sorcery. I mean, I have included, like, a decent number of just, like, completely janky cards that would not be playable but are cool. So, they deserve 1. Battle of Whispers is a 6-mana sorcery. Target opponent reveals their hand and discards all creature cards. You choose a card at random from that player's hand. You may put that card onto the battlefield under your control. Holy crap, this card is cool and probably too strong, but it's cool. What? Okay, so first of all, target player discards all creature cards from their hand. That is cool. That is very, very cool. For 6 mana, probably not even underpowered or overpowered. It's probably, like, actually at a very good mana cost at that point. Just, that either discards a ton or a little. You don't really know unless you have another card that lets you look at their hand, maybe. Maybe you do. Maybe another card that lets you look at their hand. It's possible. There's already some discard stuff in red, specifically black-red, if I recall correctly, from Gods of Winter. So that's great. And, if that wasn't all, you then get a random non-creature from their hand. And that's what's so interesting to me about this. It discards all creatures, then it discards 1 additional card. If that card is a permanent, you get it. If it's not a permanent, it would go into their graveyard, right? So if just to be clear about rules, if I'm understanding the rules correctly, if you chose a non-permanent, like a sorcery or an instant, I chose randomly, whatever, it would try to go to the battlefield and then go to the graveyard instead. So it would still discard it, but it wouldn't, like, count as a discard for things that care about discarding cards, I believe. So that's all. That's a very powerful discard effect. 6 mana is a lot of mana, though. I don't know. What's cool is this can't cheat out a creature, right? You can't be like, my opponent has a 10/10 with trample in their hand. I'm going to hope that I randomly cause them to discard that 10/10 with trample, then I get it. Like, you won't, because they've discarded all of their creatures. The only thing you can hit with this are lands or enchantments or artifacts. And don't get me wrong, there are some powerful artifacts and enchantments that exist, but I think that's a really cool... I'm keeping it. It's cool. It's cool and cool. The Master Mages could speak of arcane tidings that could leave one's ears ringing. I guess the real question is this a red card? I mean, it's not really, because, like, color pie does not exist in AI. Don't pretend like it does. You're going to have a bad time if you try and affix to the color pie. But I'm curious, because I just think it's interesting to discuss, like, could this effect make sense in red? Causing discard, it's usually more of a black thing, but there's some stuff in red I feel like. I think that's more like self-discard, but whatever. This would be interesting if you could target yourself. Probably wouldn't be worth it for 6 mana, but still, cool. You get... I don't know. I like it. I think it's cool. I think I wouldn't be surprised to see this in black. Or blue, probably. But I don't think it's out of place in red. It's not like it's green. That brings us to the end of the red cards. And I think we are going to have time tonight to go through the green. So I'm excited, because I do want to get through them. Let's keep going. Keep up the pace. Centaur Strategist is an 8-mana Minotaur Shaman. What? Okay. I mean, Centaur is a creature type, so it could be a Centaur. But the idea of, like, Minotaur being a general creature type for anything that's kind of like that, I would allow. In the same way that, like, liches are typed as zombies, even though they're not zombies, you know? Like, Magic does that all the time. That's not too weird. Because Centaur exists, it is weird, but whatever. Centaur, maybe Minotaurs are strategizing against Centaurs. I don't know. Centaur Strategist is an 8-mana 4/6 with first strike and cumulative upkeep. Cumulative upkeep, pay for life. At the beginning of your upkeep, put an age counter on this permanent. Then sacrifice it unless you pay its upkeep cost for each age counter on it. The cool thing about cumulative upkeep is that you can use it as a positive. Like, I think there's cards that are like, cumulative upkeep, draw a card, right? And then, like, you can just draw a card, and then you have 2, then you draw 2 cards, then you draw 3 cards, then you draw 4 cards. Like, that's really cool. This card did not do that, and it's not good enough for cumulative upkeep. Unless you want to pay life for some reason. Like, occasionally that's a relevant effect, but that's pretty fringe. Even for me. Punching well above their weight is not a matter of chance, but rather a skill taught and developed. Strangler Fig is a 8 mana 7/7 tree folk. I should actually say, this is an enchantment tree folk. I don't think I mentioned that with the Minotaur. But yes, enchantment creature, tree folk. Love this so far. What a cool, just big 7/7 tree folk named Strangler Fig. Ah, it's great. Constellation. Whenever Strangler Fig or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, target creature an opponent controls gets -3/-3 until end of turn. This card is probably too strong, but it's 8 mana, so it's allowed to be too strong, honestly. Like, I'm not gonna tell it can't be. Usually the really expensive things just don't make anything interesting at all, and I will take it. If anything's allowed to be too strong, it's this one. I like this card a lot. So, I should mention, it used Constellation correctly. I don't, like, reroll cards just because they don't use, like, ability words right, because ability words don't technically have rules meaning. They simply precede a formulaic effect. In this case, it's correct, though. The formulaic effect is whenever this or an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control. Cool! So this just enters as an 8 mana 7/7, kills something that's 3 or less. If you have a more, you know, on a future turn, if you want to play multiple enchantments in the same turn, you could do like 6 or 9 damage to something. Ah, very good. Very, very cool card. The spiky tips and sinewy branches are entwined to create a vine that no living creature can cut free. This card's sweet. This card's great. I love this card. This card's excellent. Goblin Warchief is a 1 mana green instant. I did not see that coming. Okay, yeah, it's a green instant. Destroy target attacking creature with flying. Wow, that's even more narrow than just destroy target attacking or destroy target flyer. Nope. Attacking creature that has flying. Alright. Goblin Warchief deals 2 damage to target attacking creature. So, it's very green, except for the attacking part. That's kind of a white effect. But, I'm kind of into this. Goblin Warchief, 1 mana, kills a flyer, as long as it's attacking. Which, I mean, if it's attacking, that's the one you're scared of, right? Like, you're not really that scared of a flying blocker, usually, because you don't have much flying anyway, so, like, eh. I mean, still useful, but whatever. There's not a huge drawback. And it's a 1 mana kill spell. That's good. And then ping something for 2. The issue is it would need a target, I think, right? If your opponent attacks you with a single flyer, I guess you could do that. You could say, I will destroy the flyer and deal 2 damage to the flyer, because those effects would be on the stack before the creature died. And by the time it dies, it can't fizzle the spell because the spell is already resolved. That's how it died. No, I think it should be fine. I could be wrong about this, but I don't think there's an issue. I think at bare minimum, this is 1 mana kill an attacking flyer. At best possible, you can deal 2 damage to a different attacking creature as well. Okay, yeah, it's very niche, but it feels like green removal, honestly. He strikes at your morale. Oh, wait, no, he strikes at your morale. Whatever that means. Giant Dread, Lords of the Horde. No, I think it checks out, actually. Weird. Battle Charger is a 1-mana, 1/1 Goblin Soldier. Ooh, so we saw a lot of goblins in red, but we didn't see many soldiers. The idea of like, okay, let's see where this goes. Battle Charger, 1-mana, 1/1 green Goblin Soldier. Battle Charger gets +1/+1 as long as you control a gate. Cool. This is a 1-mana, 1/1. Activates your things that care about goblins or soldiers. Might be a 2/2. Maybe. I'm okay with this. If this was a 1-mana 2/2, I'd probably also be okay with it, but I probably shouldn't be, to be honest. But oh well. That's fine. We need that land bridge for war, not diplomacy. Doga, Tender Negotiator. Oh, and like before, where there was that card that cared about how many bridges you control, we might see a gate, but probably not. But we might. And hey, you know, you could use it in Constructed, I guess. If you're playing like Commander, you can have some gates. Tectonic Rift is a 3-mana green 2/2 enchantment creature ooze. Okay. It's weird, but I think it checks out. Like, I'm kind of interested in this idea of like, yeah, it's the Tectonic Rift. It's this ooze that bubble out of a rift. Or is the rift itself? I don't know. Whenever you cast a green spell, put a 1/1 counter on Tectonic Rift. Okay. Whenever you cast a white spell, put a 1/1 counter on Tectonic Rift. This could grow fast. It does not care if you are green-white, but if you're mono-green or green-white, it is as good as each other. If you are green and a non-white color, then it's less good. Cool, I'm into that. It's not an upside for playing green-white, but it is not a downside for not playing mono-green if you're playing white. Yeah. Does this grow too fast? Maybe. I'm okay with it. It could live in a moment of terrifying violence, then roll over into its next moment of utter calm. Sweet. Champion's Quarters is a 3-mana green sorcery. Create 2 2/2 green beast creature tokens. Spells you cast this turn can't be countered. Huh. So the wording on that is a bit weird, right? I almost thought it was going to accidentally write itself into a permanent way of like, your spells can't be countered sort of thing, right? But it says this turn, right? I would expect it to be like until the end of turn, spells you control can't be countered or something like that. But okay. That's cool. That's a cool spell. Yeah, okay, cool. I have nothing wrong with this. It's probably even too strong, and that's exactly where I want it. No one can deny their brilliance. I have no idea what's too strong. I should stop saying things are probably too strong. It's a cool card. I like it. No one can deny their brilliance. The Shen Battlefield Captain. We're having a few good hits, and I should not dawdle on it, and I should keep moving, because that's how we're going to get through this. Flames of the Dragon. Did we already see a card called that? It was similar. Flames of the Dragon is a 5-mana green instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, exile a creature or planeswalker you control. Cool. Target creature gets +X/+O until end of turn, where X is the total power of the creature you exiled with Flames of the Dragon. I'm actually unsure how this works. So first of all, if you exiled a planeswalker, you just get no benefit, which is funny. But ignoring that, if I had a creature and I buffed it, I was like, here's an instant that gives it +7/+7, right? And then I cast this, exiling that creature. Once it hits exile, it's going to lose those until end of turn buffs, right? It then goes on to say, X is the total power of that of the creature you exiled with Flames of the Dragon. Does it care about its stats in exile or when you sacrificed it? Or when you exiled it? Because if this said sacrifice, I think it cares about when you exiled, right? It's not total power of the creature in exile. Exiled. I'm not 100% sure how that works. Either way, this is 5 mana. Move the power from one creature to another 1 turn only. It's probably not good enough. Cool, though. Right? You're attacking with, like, 2 8/8s, and they're like, I can only block 1, I'll take this 1, and the other 8 will go to face. And then you say, cool, that 8/8 is gone, and now the other 8/8 has +8 power, and now it hits for 16. Like, that's cool. Is it 5 mana cool? I don't think so. I can take it. You can too. Aven Gesture is a 5 mana instant. Return target creature to its owner's hand. If green was spent to cast this spell, draw 2 cards. Well, I got some good news for you. I think green will be spent to cast this card, this spell. So cool. What does that make this? This makes this a 5 mana. Bounce a creature, draw 2 cards. Huh. I mean, it's not amazing, but in green, if you don't have much removal anyway, if you want to draw 2, like, I like it actually. I think it maybe could afford to be 4 mana instead of 5, and probably doesn't need to be green like it is, but yeah, I think it works. I would die for your god. But, like, yeah. I don't know. I don't really, like... The going rate for card draw is so interesting because I feel like it's different depending on what color you're in, right? Like, blue, it's way cheaper. And that's also true for bounce, right? Like, return a creature to its owner's hand is like a 1 mana effect in blue, I think. And draw 2 cards is probably like a 2 mana effect. So you bundle that together and you're at 3 mana. And then you still have an extra 2 mana that you actually have to pay for this card. But you're not in blue, you're in green. So, Stalwart Worm, spelled with a U, is a 4 mana, 4/4 creature worm, spelled with a U. Very nice. When Stalwart Worm enters the battlefield, return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. This card's cool. I like this card. 4 mana, 4/4 bounce is a thing when it enters the battlefield. Very clean. Nothing super special. I think it's fine. Could probably afford to have, like, Trample or something. Not a Gurglar. Not a Mew-pecking Imp. Just a stout, ferocious worm. Fair enough. There's nothing special. There's nothing weird and fancy going on. It's just a big worm. What more do you want? I'm into it. Arrogant Orc is a 1 mana 2/1 Orc Shaman. Sweet. It has the ability sacrifice Arrogant Orc, regenerate Arrogant Orc. It has the reminder text for regenerate, which is the next time this creature would be destroyed this turn if it isn't. Instead, tap and destroy it, remove all damage from it, and remove it from combat. Unfortunately, it's already dead by the time you regenerate it because you sacrificed it as a cost. Also, if you didn't sacrifice it as a cost, I mean, even if the sacrifice happened after, you can't regenerate through sacrifice. It gets around it. It does say when it would be destroyed, but sacrifice does not count for some reason. I don't know. I mean, for good reasons mechanically. It's just verbiage-wise, I'm not sure if destroy is different. Either way, I don't think this functions. Like, I got a 2/1, and you have, like, a lightning bolt, and you're going to kill my 2/1, and I say, in response, I sacrifice it, and it regenerates. And then the spell fizzles anyway, because it's dead. It doesn't count. There's always more room in a fighting orc's heart than he can possibly use. Yadame, Tattered Agent of Chaos. I do like that. That's a very good flavored text. Core Angler is a 1-mana, 1/1 human cleric. Aw, I wanted it to be a Core Angler. For generic and green, Core Angler gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Okay. I mean, are you going fishing for core? Is that what you are? A herald to the local chief, Core Angler stays a step ahead of danger by catching it in the act. Yeah, I guess Core Angler is like a human cleric that's... Okay. I think this card's fine. It's like not a super exciting one, but you definitely play it in limited. Like, yeah. Weird. Deepwood Pastures is a 5-mana green sorcery. Search your library for up to X basic land cards. I feel like we've already seen this effect. Where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Then reveal those cards. I guess they mean the searched cards. Yeah, that makes sense. Weird wording, but yeah, that works. You may put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Okay, so we saw a card in red that said, I think it was like 6 mana or something, to search your deck for a land per land you control. Or, yeah. Those cards went directly into your hand, not the battlefield. This one is green, which is the ramp color, so fair. It's 5 mana, and it puts them directly into the battlefield. They are tapped, so it's not a huge, ritual effect. Getting stuff into your graveyard is like harder than you think, unless you have a lot of good self-mill. Number of creature cards. I think I'll allow it. It facilitates some really interesting gameplay. Even if this is too strong in a very specific deck, it's not too strong in anyone's deck. And I want to see players do that. I want to see players go, oh, cool, I can build around this card. I can make a creature-heavy deck that has a lot of self-mill. That's cool. That's the best part about Magic. Maybe if that deck comes together, it becomes the dominant deck and destroys the meta. Who cares? It's AI Magic. This card's cool. Let's go. A River and its Dark Reflection. A Night's Dream. I mean, sometimes cards like that aren't even too strong because, like, the decks that are best at, like, activating the card aren't the decks that want the payoff for the card, right? Would be really scary in a landfall deck, though. No landfall in this set, I don't think. Oh, yeah? I don't think so. Cool. Cloaked Heroes is a 2-mana green enchantment aura. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and has first strike. Boring, simple, and clean. Let's go. A leader and a commander, the pike makes the proud warrior feel every blow. Ooh, that sounds bad. Herden's Blood. Who is Herden? Herden's Blood is a 5-mana green sorcery. Put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. Draw a card. This card sucks. No, I'm not keeping this one. Nah. It's not weird enough to be kept. It's just bad. It's just not bad. It's weak. It's like, you never want to be playing this. A soldier must remain upright or bow to Crosa. Gerard of the Weatherlight. Try again. Quest for Amur. Well, those like quest cards were cool. You like add a token to it and then counter to it, and then eventually you have enough counters, you do an effect. Those cards were fun. Quest for Amur. That is cool. Quest for Amur is a 5-mana green sorcery. Create 2/2/2 green beast creature tokens. Exile 3 creature cards from your graveyard. If this was like graveyard hate, it might be worth the expensive cost. Otherwise, nah, I don't think so. Like, we just saw create 2/2/2 green beasts earlier, and it was like, what, 3 mana or something? Nah. For it is better to possess one kestrel than an entire valley. Yelena, Knight Admiral of Vanguard. Returning Joust. 5 mana, destroy target land, you gain 2 life. It's a cool name. I like the idea of like a sorcery that's just like, probably would make more sense in like as an instant, and it's sort of like target spell that's on the stack and then deal damage, and doesn't like, you need to have a spell on the stack to, it doesn't actually affect the spell, it just like, in response I punch you. Anyway, it's a cool name for a spell. It's not this. I saw you standing on that rise. When I called you, you did not hear me. Corporal Longlegs, Tuck Rider. Exquisite Firecraft is a 5 mana green sorcery. Search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. That's it. It's my hobby to play with sparklers, and my speciality to blow them up. Nadox, Minotaur's Brewmaster. I'm pretty sure that's not the right cost for that effect. I could be wrong. I don't know. I don't know things. Hero's Quest is a 5 mana green sorcery. Draw 2 cards. Then, put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library in any order. Hero's Quest deals damage to you equal to the number of creatures you control. What the? Why? This is already bad. It's already bad. Then you have to go punch me in the face. Your honor is above all. If you need to cheat, cheat death. Hey, if you're gonna cheat, there's one thing that's reasonable to cheat, and that's death. Fair enough. Sidar Jabari, Malakir Noble. Oh wait, are Malakir vampires? That makes sense. Warcry is a 5 mana green sorcery. Create a 4/4 green dragon creature token with flying. And devour 5. Then fuse. Okay, wait a minute. So, let's talk about this for a second. 5 mana sorcery, make a 4/4 with flying. It's not good, but it's like better than what we've seen so far. So let's ignore that. Devour, I'm going to double check the wording on Devour, because that's a real keyword. It's only on creatures though, so I don't think it works, but let's ignore that. I mean, it's on creature spells, I should say. It is, anyway. Then it says Fuse. You may cast this card from your graveyard by discarding a card in addition to it paying its Fuse cost. It doesn't have a Fuse cost. It just says Fuse. Does that mean it's Fuse 0? Or is that like Fuse null? Like, the idea of saying you may cast this from your graveyard by discarding a card? That's too strong. Especially, I've never heard of Fuse. Is Fuse a real thing? I'm gonna have to look that up, because like, you'd want an effect like this to be like, exile this card and when you finish resolving it or something, right? Like, it shouldn't go into the graveyard repeatedly forever. I think it's our time for our first break to Scryfall and see what we've found. First, we're going to look at Devour. We can see from Bloodspore Thrinax that Devour is a keyword that's followed by a number, meaning as this enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice any number of creatures. This creature enters the battlefield with that many 1/1 counters. Here's a card with Devour 2. As this comes into play, you may sacrifice any number of creatures. This creature comes into play with twice that many 1/1 counters on it. Okay, so yes, Devour means ETB, sacrifice creatures, get counters based on the number of counter things, multiplied by the Devour number. What we're seeing, of course, is not that. It says Devour 4 mana and 4 generic mana and a green mana. Which, I guess would mean when this enters the battlefield, which is cool, I should say. At first I thought Devour was something about when you cast it, not when it enters the battlefield. So this is actually really cool. I'm very interested in this. But this would read 1/1 counters, an amount of 1/1 counters times like 4 generic and 1 mana? Like, because it's a multiplier, right? Devour 1 is I don't know why why I'm still talking about this. You get it. It doesn't work. That's a shame. That would be kind of cool, actually, to have a token that enters with Devour. I think that would be fun. I found Fuse. Okay, Fuse, you may cast one or both halves of this card from your hand. What? I assume this means you may either spend 2 mana to get the left effect, 4 mana to get the right effect, or 6 mana to get both effects. Okay, cool. For us, that would mean you may cast this card from your graveyard by just, yeah, it's a completely different effect. Again, cool seeing it make up its own keywords, unless it's just wrong about what that keyword's supposed to mean. Maybe you may cast this from your graveyard by discarding a card in addition to playing its something cost is a real text, and that's just lifting from something else. I'm not sure. But all in all, this card is non-functional, and I've wasted way too much time on it. Enjoy! I didn't read the flavor text, dang it. All that time and I didn't read the flavor text. You read it though, right? It was on screen for a long time. Deep Fiendish Glee is a 5-mana green sorcery. Choose one. Deep Fiendish Glee deals 4 damage to target creature. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. Search your library for a card named Deep Fiendish Glee. Put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Okay! Again, choose ones are interesting, because I don't know how to gauge them, but if this just said 5 mana, destroy artifact or enchantment, or deal 4 damage to a creature. I think that's too much. I think that's too expensive. It's always nice to be able to have a spell that deals with artifacts and enchantments, but does another thing as well. In this case, dealing damage to a creature. For 5 mana is a lot, though. I don't know. A single reanimated cadaver for every woman in the Empire. What? What does that mean? But then also the last effect is just funny, right? Search your library for another copy of this card, which is not a permanent, and it goes directly to the battlefield. The idea of, like, having a sorcery that's like, search for a copy of this sorcery, then cast that sorcery is just funny to me, because it's like, I guess there's fringe use cases of that, but not really. Merciless Flourish. That is a beautiful name. A 5-mana green sorcery. Return up to 3 target creatures to their owner's hands. You gain 7 life. Actually? I mean, it's expensive, but I think all of these effects are relevant, and they're, like, big effects. Like, 3 things. That could be worth more than 5 mana very easily. And gives him life. Life gain has payoff in this set. Life gain's totally relevant. Okay, and it's a lot. Like, seven's a lot, actually. Heal a war injury. Yes, you. We both know you wouldn't have it any other way. Kirkistos. Okay. No, that card's great. We got there. Lore/Science is a 2-mana green instant. Put target artifact, creature, enchantment, land, or... Sorry. Put target artifact, creature, enchantment, land, or planeswalker into its owner's library, second from the top. I love this card. This card's great. This card's really fun. We talk about this every time it comes up, but the AI sometimes tries to make split cards, but doesn't actually know how to make split cards, so it just makes them called Lore/Science, which is a great split card name. I love that name for a split card. This would technically, therefore, be lore, and we have no idea what science is. But lore is cool. I like it. Where else can we learn of life beyond our world? I suppose I should find out. Lore. The target creature is going back into the deck and becoming lore. No longer fact. Thaddeus Radware. Radware? Nice. Forgotten Dead is a 5-mana green 2/2 creature spirit. I like it so far. Although it's a 2/2, it's going to be hard to make that worth 5 mana. For green and tap and sacrifice Forgotten Dead. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. This card's cool. It's just, it's too expensive, right? This is a 6 mana card that takes 2 turns because it can't sacrifice immediately to cheat something from your graveyard. Way too slow. If it was the opposite, if it was like spend the 1 mana first, or maybe like if the mana was different, right? If it was something like a 2 mana 2/2, spend an additional 3 and sacrifice and cheat something out, that would be very strong. I think that'd be really good. But yeah, I guess that would be like 3 and 3 because it's 6 mana total. Whatever. Cool card, not actually good enough, I don't think. Maybe it is. This would be interesting if you had an effect that was like return target card that is like power 2 or less from your like deck, right? Like a really cheap resurrection effect because it only can hit small bodies, and then that body sacrifices itself to pull out a bigger thing. That's fun. It's way too slow, right? It would take multiple turns, but cool. I think it'd be interesting. Cool. We'll try it again. Once forgotten, their spirits do not rest. Like, it's really cool. That's cool. Kor's Wrath. Okay. Kor's Wrath is a 5-mana 6/6 elemental with haste. At the beginning of each upkeep, Kor's Wrath gets +2/+2 until end of turn. This card's stupid. This is... I'm very tempted to keep this. It's literally called Kor's Wrath. It's like the thing of the set. The idea that maybe Kor is like a white creature type, but the Wrath has manifested in this green elemental. Like, that is... that's so good. That said, this is a 5-mana 6/6 with haste, which on the following turn will be an 8/8. Well, the following your turn. That is. That said, I mean, it's not like it has trample. I mean, we've seen stupidly big bodies in green before that aren't actually playable, but it's got haste. It does have haste. It does have haste. That haste is really good. Also, it only costs 2 green pips, so you could actually put this in a multicolor deck pretty easily. I, Kor, ruler of all creation, decreed that you were too pathetic to survive. Sarkhan, Vol. I'm gonna keep it. There are broken cards in this set. This is fine. Too flavorful to destroy. Eldrazi Rift Drake is a 6-mana 4/4 elemental. Weirdly, I think we've avoided Eldrazi this set. Was there one Eldrazi in Gods of Winter? Like, we haven't seen much at all in Eldrazi, so it's interesting to hear something about this. It's not an Eldrazi itself, but like it's an elemental that came through a rift, maybe? Interesting. 6-mana 4/4 elemental with flying. Eldrazi Rift Drakes, power and toughness are each equal to the number of creatures you control. Ugh. As long as Eldrazi Rift Drake is a creature, it has first strike. Okay, so there was a previous card in the set that we were working on. I don't remember which card it was or what color it was, but it had an actual power and toughness, and then also had an ability that defined its power and toughness. And while that's not something that you see get printed in actual Magic, I am not convinced that that wouldn't function. My understanding is that the card text would override the written text, but maybe it wouldn't unless it was on the battlefield. Maybe it would be different in the graveyard or the deck. I'm not 100% sure, which means it could be relevant for certain effects. It's like an X card where the mana value treats X as 0, but when you actually cast it, the mana value changes to what you cast. The idea of having something where it's like, well, the fact that this doesn't count as 0 in other zones is relevant. I have no idea. That might just not even be functional, and it should just be 100% rerolled. It's AI magic. We're going to be a little wibbly with it. Don't worry about it too much. Is it good? 6 mana for a number of creatures you control. It does a first strike, though. Flying first strike, I think it's probably good. I mean, sometimes this is going to be a 1-1 with first strike and flying, and you're going to be so mad, but other times it's going to be very, very strong. Cool. I'm okay with it. Let's go. He makes land a living hell. Dragonship Smuggler. That's a cool name. Dragonship Smuggler is a 3 mana 2/2 enchantment creature elemental. Okay. I had the name gave me this vision of like a smuggler who has a ship that looks like a dragon, so they can like fool somebody to like get cross lines. Like, oh, don't attack that ship. That's actually a dragon, and it'll try and kill us. Like, you will just piss it off. Ignore that ship. Like, that's interesting. But they're an elemental, which sort of feel like that doesn't fit. So I don't know. So it's a 3 mana 2/2 with flying. When Dragonship Smuggler enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target non-land card from a graveyard. Return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. Oh! It's pretty good right there. It's pretty good. If this just did the exile part, I'd be like, okay, cool. 3 mana 2/2 with flying, also has a little bit of graveyard hate. Cute. Cute. Fine. I like that. This actually is a resurrection effect. It's a slow resurrection effect, which is potentially interesting. I don't see those very often. But it's just the beginning of the next end step. Like, you weren't going to do anything with it this turn anyway, unless you were cheating out, like, a hasty creature, which isn't going to happen too often. I mean, that other card was hasty, but let's ignore that. So it's a 3 mana 2/2 with flying that then cheats something out. Like, at most generous, probably you would rate the 2/2 flyer for like 2 mana. That's a very cheap resurrection. I don't think I can justify that. Like, does that say faxes? That is not an O. Is it? I can't tell. I'm going to say it's an O. Like foxes who feed on other species' corpses, smugglers consume even the unseemly to enhance their own hides. I do think this is like a really cool style of card. I just don't think it perfectly came together, unfortunately. But it's a cool idea, right? Having a body that resurrects something, but it resurrects something like slowly. If it was like the start of your next like upkeep, it was actually probably be an upside because then it would protect itself or something. But then you wouldn't like untap with it, so it would have summoning sickness for an extra turn. That could be kind of cool, actually. Storm Chaser Mage is a 3 mana 0/0 enchantment creature elemental. Now that sounds much more elementally. Storm Chaser Mage enters the battlefield with a number of 1/1 counters on it equal to the number of lands you control. Oh, that's scary. Okay. Whenever a land you control is put into a graveyard from anywhere, put a 1/1 counter on Storm Chaser Mage. This card is so cool. This might... I mean, I've been saying this a lot tonight. I keep saying this might be too strong. I don't know. I need to stop saying that. This card's cool. I like it. I think it's fine. Let's go. A tiny chittering called it to him, but he chose to hear the call of the wind and not run from it. This card's rad. This card's super cool. I love that. What's cool is that it's a one-time influx of counters. It doesn't, like, keep growing as you play more lands. So you have to decide when you want to play it. And then if you have some way of, like, milling lands or something, like, it's cool. Soul Cairn is a 3-mana green 2/2 enchantment creature dryad. Appropriate. We're seeing on these green cards, like, so in Gods of Winter, like, it was winter, right? And this is Lords of the Rime. There's still, like, a cold theme, but we're seeing, especially in green, a lot more, well, green, frankly. It's pretty cool. There was a lot of, like, dryads and nymphs in the last set. I don't know if there was any dryads. It might have only been nymphs, but it's cool seeing them sort of, like, maybe something's changing, right? Winter may be fading. Soul Cairn is a 3-mana, 2/2 dryad. We saw that. For 3 mana, sacrifice Soul Cairn, you gain 3 life. I doubt that's good enough. I would expect. But I kind of want to keep it. Like, it just seems like it's a nice... I could see this in common. Like, I can imagine opening a pack of this and being like, oh yeah, that's a common. Like, and I want those. I want those in every color. So, yeah. The meditations of the bards reveal a surprising amount of poetry and history hidden within the Moongate's foundations. Like, it's cool. It's just a nice... I don't know. I don't think you'd want to play it much, but there are certain situations where it's relevant because of life gain, because of enchantment. And it's just evocative and interesting, and I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep it. We're going to keep moving. Lots of room for broken cards in the same color. Tree of Tales is a 4-mana green sorcery. Search your library for a basic land card. Reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle. I don't know the going rate for search a land, but I feel like this is bad. Then again, I don't want there to be no ramp in green. That would feel really weird. So, I don't know. I have found that to gain the wisdom of the elders, I must travel in search of tales. That is where the spirits reside, beyond the reaches of the Eldrazi. Ulgrotha, Azorius Cacodemon. Cool. I'm going to reroll that. Bone Splinters. Not only is Bone Splinters just like an actual name of a card, I've seen Bone Splinters been made by AI before. They keep using that name. Bone Splinters is a 4-mana sorcery. Choose one, destroy target artifact, destroy target enchantment. It's good to have removal for enchantments and artifacts, but this is not it. Let's move on. The gun-gloved pikeman of my ancestor chose well. Master Moidic, Sage's Voice. Try that one again. Don't want to spend too much time on it. Deluge is a 4-mana green sorcery. Deluge deals 5 damage to each creature and each player. That seems very strong, but okay. A blaze of lightning and thunder. No, that says thunder. Yeah. Wow, my eyes are bad. A blaze of lightning and thunder erupts over the city of Kor. You cannot flee the rain. Legal note. I did not expect that. So here we're seeing once again that Kor seems to kind of be anything, but that kind of checks out. The idea of like, these are the people known as Kor, living in the city Kor, which is the capital of the country Kor. Like, I 100% believe that. That makes total sense. That is not a, like, conflict. That... Buffalo, 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 buffalo. Armadillo Soldier is a 6-mana 2/5 tree folk. Okay. As long as you control another tree folk, Armadillo Soldier gets +2/+2 and has reach. It can block creatures with flying. Huh. 6 mana, sometimes a 4/7. As much as I like tree folk and I want to see them in the set, I don't think this is it. Tree folk feel their roots spread far beneath the ground, ready to meet a future threat. We have seen other tree folk, so it is possible to like activate it without having multiple copies of the same card, but Oh, hello. Tuskguard Monk is a 6-mana Rhino Monk 4/7 vanilla. Now, this is interesting. That last card, if you activate its condition, became a 4/7. And the stat line actually seemed kind of appealing to me. Probably, that's not good enough for 6 mana, I imagine. I imagine that's not good enough for 6 mana. But it's an interesting stat line. It's something that I wouldn't mind seeing on a vanilla card. It was the fact that you had to jump through a hoop to get there that I was mostly put off by. I think I might accept this Tuskguard Monk. The Tuskguard knew they would die, but he wanted to teach others a lesson before they died. I haven't perfectly parsed that sentence, but I'm going to accept it. Yeah, it's probably overcosted, but that's okay. Gotta have some comments. What do we have here? I mean, it's kind of, I guess if something's a little overcosted, the more expensive it is, the harder it is. Like, again, it's that sort of extrapolating factor. Oh well. Grizzly Tonic is a 4-mana 3/4 dragon. Sacrifice a creature. Regenerate Grizzly Tonic. Yeah, this is beautiful. It's a sack outlet, so that's like an upside. I think technically you're not allowed to sacrifice unless you have... I remember one time reading that regenerate effects you could not activate unless there was, like, death on the stack, which seems stupid to me. I think that's dumb, and I don't know if that is true. It's the sort of ruling that I remember hearing, and it felt like it was official at the time, but when I think about it, it makes absolutely no sense, because how would you rule that? Like, how would a judge confirm that the death was on the stack? Like, it just, I don't... Like, you can only do it in response to... whatever. So, it might not be a sack outlet. I'd have to ask a judge. But still, cool. And it protects itself. It's kind of expensive for not being actually a very good body that's protecting itself, but still, the fact that you can keep using it over and over again is potentially going to make up for the fact that it's 4 for a 3/4. I think it's good. Also, it's a dragon, which is fine. When lizard folk roam the lands of Innistrad, they bring with them their curses and blessings. Cool. Outpost Siege is a 5-mana green enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, Outpost Siege deals 2 damage to any target. Cool! That seems hard to deal with, but it's also very slow. It's probably worth it. Like, it's probably not too strong in that, like, you play it, it doesn't do anything, and then next turn it deals 2 damage to a thing. And sure, that is going to add up over the game, but it doesn't come down until, like, it's 5 mana to start. I don't know. I like it, actually. The Wellspring of Legend lives on in these sacred ruins. Marauding Banditos is a 2-mana 1/1 elf shaman. Ooh, we've seen have we seen any elves in this set? I think we saw an elf or something that cared about elves. Like, we did. We saw that core, right? No, wait, the core wasn't an elf. It said it was an elf. Oh, there's no elves here because they're all turning into core. Is that what's happening? I don't remember. I think it was a core named elf, like corrupted elf, that cared about elves or something. Yeah. But we're not seeing many elves. There was an elf, like, creature type matters effect in Gods of Winter. There was, like, a bunch of stuff that cared about that. And we haven't really seen any. And I was expecting to see a bunch in green, so this is kind of cool. 2-mana 1/1 gets +1/+1 for each creature you control. This card's great. This card's really cool and great. I like the idea that there's something happening with the elves. Like, I don't know what's happening with them, but there's something, and it's cool. They leave the flowers and children just to leave the flowers and children behind. Asperia, Giltwood Pathfinder. Gutter Bats is a 3-mana 2/1 dwarf soldier. As an additional cost to cast this spell, exile a creature card from your graveyard. It also has Morbid, tap. Discard a creature card, regenerate Gutter Bats. No. I've decided no. Why is there an ash pit under our porch? Did someone step in it? Ashtami to Renfield on meeting a dead body. There's a story there, but we will not be telling it today. Hulking Centaur Warrior is actually a Centaur Warrior. Okay. Hulking Centaur Warrior is a 3-mana 2/2 creature Centaur Warrior. It can tap. Hulking Centaur Warrior deals 2 damage to target creature you control. I'm going to allow it. It's bad. Maybe you care about that for some reason. I don't know. Maybe you need that effect. I'm not going to say you can't have that effect if you need it for some reason. Here's a card that does it. It's got a big... Whoa, I didn't see the final render on that art until now. That is a choice. Centaurs think the weather is a game. Also, actually, we're not going to keep this card. I just noticed it's not done rendering. It's still glowing. This card is too spicy. Too spicy card, apparently. Let's flip that one over and try again. Nell Toaster Bearer. What? Okay, that's not how toast is spelt, so it's not actually Toaster Bearer, but that's still funny to me. Nell Toaster Bearer is a 3-mana 2/2 creature elephant. Can't you tell? My elephant friends and I have heard many tales of your country. It would seem that the Hounds of Zar were only the smallest of them. Nell Toaster Bearer. You're a 3-mana 2/2 vanilla. Sorry, Nell. Also, Nell makes it sound like you're like a legendary creature and you are not. We need to get some legendary creatures. Where are they? Aki Huntmaster is a 3-mana 2/2 human druid. For green and tap, target creature gains haste until end of turn. That is actually a pretty scary effect. I think I'm okay with this. Yeah. Yeah. Being able to give things haste is good. For attacks of 1 mana and tapping this 2/2? Yeah, totally. I'm okay with that. I mean, maybe that's not actually very good. We know that Crashing Drawbridge, one of my favorite cards, I think it's super good. That just taps. It's just like that's just like a wall that taps to give everything haste. I'm okay with it. It's also a human druid. That's cool. Not one of us will take you by force. We only want what you want. For you to decide what you want for yourself. That's so true. Pilgrim of Wrath is a 3-mana 2/2 human cleric. For generic and green, put a 1/1 counter on Pilgrim of Wrath. Activate only if you control a pilgrim. Well, if Pilgrim of Wrath is not a pilgrim, I have a feeling like there's not going to be any pilgrims in the set. I kind of want to see a creature with the pilgrim subtype, but if you did, it would be weird that Pilgrim of Wrath is not one. Yeah, that would be really cool otherwise. It's like an expensive Fire Breathe, except for it's also gives you toughness and it sticks around. Very cool. And the restriction's actually nice. Like I think it's nice that it has a restriction. It's just that the restriction is a pilgrim. It's not like if it was like an elf or a core or something, that might be more interesting. You walk into a dangerous place and look for safe passage. I offer neither. For I see death before me and follow it. Ishin. Cool flavor text. Pygmy Chameleon. Pygmy Chameleon is a 3-mana 2/2 creature snake. Okay. Reach. Whenever a creature dealt damage by Pygmy Chameleon this turn dies, you may gain life equal to that creature's power. Oh. That is super interesting. I have no idea how to gauge the, like, value of that effect, because I've never seen that in Magic before. But I like it. At bare minimum, it's a 3-mana 2/2 with reach. Like, it's not horrible. It doesn't have Death Touch. It's like, if it kills... I like this card. I like this card a lot. Also, I want to talk about Chameleon a bit. I think technically there is one card with Chameleon on it as this creature type, but there's also other like cards that are depicting chameleons that are lizards. So the fact that this is a snake is totally fine to me. There is nothing consistent in Magic about chameleons. Those whose strength is determined by a roll of the dice would have to say their bones are hollow to remain standing. I don't know what that means. Acolyte of Vitu-Ghazi is a 4-mana 4/3 Rhino. We're seeing some more rhinos. Cool. First strike, haste. Sacrifice Acolyte of Vitu-Ghazi. Destroy target attacking creature. I like this card. I like that we're seeing more rhinos. The idea that this is an acolyte. It's not like a cleric or anything, which feels kind of weird, but like I think the last one we saw was a monk. Like there's something interesting about these like rhino people that seem very like spiritual. I like that. That seems interesting. First strike and haste is very strong, and you can then stack it to blow something up if it attacks. Like this is a really, really solid card. The caste system made the Chorites. That's the first time I've seen this term. The caste system made the Chorites rigid and stubborn. The acolytes who rejected their heritage often lost their lives. Huh. Now I gotta figure out what a Chorite is. Is it different than a core? That's cool. That's really cool. Blazing Barrier is a 2-mana green sorcery. Blazing Barrier deals, looks like 3 damage to any target. For cycling, it can cycle for a generic and a green, which has the correct reminder text. Yep. Discard this card, draw a card. Yep. When you cycle Blazing Barrier, you may pay an additional 2. If you do, create a 1/1 white golem artifact creature token. There's a lot going on in this card. Bare minimum, 2 mana, deal 3 damage, not bad. That's fine. It's any target, can even go face. It is sorcery, which is a little bit restricting. Cool. Then it has cycling. Cycling is always a nice upside. It's not always relevant. This is the kind of card that feels like maybe the cycling is not super useful, just because I'd rather cycle like an 8-mana card I'm never going to play because I drew it early than a 2-mana that could play anytime. So, seems a bit weird. It's also like the same cost of just playing it. But, if you cycle it, you have a potential upside. You can pay 4 mana total to make this into create a 1/1 and draw a card. That seems pretty bad when I say that. Now, that said, it is a artifact creature token, which might be relevant. It's possible. Possible the artifact part is relevant. Also, it's important to remember that cycling is an activated ability and therefore happens at instant speed. So even though the card is a sorcery, you could cycle it not as a sorcery. All in all, I think this card is actually solid. You probably won't be paying the extra 2, but it's kind of, it's like Kicker, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, this isn't actually a good cost, but I've got the extra mana, I might as well use it. It's a decent mana sink. So, all in all, I think this card actually checks out. The world needs new defenders. Gug Anul. Not sure what the flavor is here, though. Blazing Barrier? I mean, you burnt something, so fair enough. Set some trees on fire. Squirming Muckworm, that's worm with an O, is a 5-mana 3/4 worm, that's worm with a U. I always have to say that. I never know what it's going to be till I get there, but like, Sometimes that matches, sometimes it doesn't. It's a worm with a U, it's a 3/4 for 5, and it has reach. Other creatures you control get +1/+1. It also has cycling of 3 generic mana, which is 3, discard the card, draw a card. Clean card, I like it. Totally okay with this. It's got reach, that's an upside. Buffs the rest of your board, that's cool. It doesn't buff itself, which is good design. It's always weird when they buff themselves, because it's like, why didn't you just have higher stats? But whatever. No, I like it. If you must die, you want to go swimming. Reassembling Knight. Is this like Reassembling Skeleton? Is a green. Is a 2-mana green 2/1 human knight. It has flash. Okay. Reassembling Knight can't block. The flash part's less relevant, but okay. It's a kind of... okay. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Reassembling Knight gets +1/+1 until end of turn. The fact that it says, like, can't block really undermines the design of this card. Like, this card's really cool if you're like, okay, cool, you're attacking me, I'm gonna spend 2 mana, flash in this human knight, it's a 2/1, you're attacking with like a 4/4 though, that's okay, I'm gonna cast another instant and another instant, right? And now I've got this like 4/4 and I block you and I kill your thing. Like, that's cool, that's interesting. The fact that it can't block, I can't think of when you would care about the flash. The flash is useful in that you can say, I'm going to cast this spell on your end step, which means it's never on the battlefield until, like, it's kind of like haste, except for you have to leave up the mana the turn prior, right? Like, the fact that you can attack with it without your opponent ever taking a turn, that's the relevant part of it having flash, which is potentially relevant. It's like maybe a more green way than if it just had haste for a similar effect. Yeah, I'm into that. That's fun. Also, because you want to be casting a lot of spells on the turn that you're attacking with it, the fact that you didn't spend 2 on it and it has haste, and then you only have the remaining mana to cast your instant sorceries. Yeah, no, I've come around, actually. I've come around on this card. I will say, it doesn't feel exceptionally green in that, like, the instant and sorcery spellslinger decks are, like, blue and red, but, that's okay. You could try this experiment, or you could listen to me. Severing Splinters is a 2-mana green instant. Creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Splinter, generic and green. You may cast this spell for its splinter cost. If you do, remove it from your deck after use. Excuse me? What is this, like, is this like a deck builder? Where you're like, aha, I was able to trash a card from my deck and now I won't be there next time I shuffle. That's what this reads as. That's so funny. Bare minimum? It's 2 mana, give your board +1/+1. I think that's probably fine. It's just a shame that Splinter doesn't do anything. Or even does do something, it doesn't, like... It might even be worse than not doing anything, because I don't think... If you were like, I'm going to cast this for Splinter, what would happen? It's not in your deck. Like, it doesn't... I think it just has to reroll for the fact that, like, that is telling you to do something that you don't know how to do. Like, it does not function. It's always a shame when the AI comes up with, like, a keyword and then it doesn't do anything, because I love it when the AI comes up with a keyword. So, Splinter 2, cast it for a Splinter cost. Unfortunately, no actual payoff, so we have to go. In a time of division, nothing endures but splinters of steel. Oh, what? Is this a land? Take cover with an exclamation mark is a 2-mana green instant with the reminder text, add tap to add red or white, as if this was a mountain plain. Create a 1/1 white warrior creature token with vigilance. Okay, cool. A flicker of death is the price of failure. I think I'd reroll this even if it didn't have broken reminder text. Windkin Awakening is a 2-mana green instant. Draw a card for each creature you control. That's... I don't know. I don't think so. We've got a number of things that key off the number of creatures you control. And honestly, not a ton of ways in green to make 1,000,000 tokens, but I think that's the line. I think that's too much. Awakening 4. If you cast this card for its awakening cost, it is an aura spell with enchant creature. It's got bestow? I like the idea. Okay, so here's the thing, right? The AI loves to make, like, you know, instances or sorceries that have, like, a static effect on them that don't make any sense. If they did that, if they were, like, instant, you know, draw a card for each creature you control, Awakening 4, enchanted creature has, blah, 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 I'd be like, oh, okay, fair enough. You actually justified that text. Good job. Once again, cool that they're making their own keywords. Not functional in this case. Also, wouldn't matter because the card's already getting vetoed. The true nature of a person is only revealed in times of trial. Azuri, Khan of Stromgald. Riot of Fools. Good name. Riot of Fools is a 2-mana green instant. Destroy target artifact. If you don't control a creature with power 5 or greater, you lose 1 life. No. I mean, artifact removal is relevant. I don't know what the going rate for artifact removal is. This might not be overcosted. But I want my artifact removal to be bundled with another option. Or at least cycling. Like, this just might not be relevant in a lot of games. Every heart will be purged. You will bleed for nothing. There will be no more ignorance. Sheoldred, Whispering One. Expose/reveal. 2-mana green instant. Expose reveals the top card of your library. That's a weird way of wording that. It doesn't say reveal the top card of your library, but whatever, that's fine. Expose reveals the top card of your library. If it's a land card, Expose deals damage equal to that card's mana value to target creature or planeswalker. Oh, so if it's a 0-mana card. Cool. I can't believe how much we're struggling with. This is the last green card, by the way. This is the last one. I've known. I haven't said it, but this is the last one. What the heck? The cover of silence is shattered. The hunter stares out from every face, naked to the daylight. Cool text. I'll give it that. Barrage of Bolts is a 2-mana instant. Barrage of Bolts deals 2 damage to any target. I hate this card. Do I just accept it? Is that fine? Is that just fine? Some can walk on water. Some can do that for days. We just do it faster. Cagliostro, Alchemist. I mean, didn't we just see a green card that was 2 mana, deal like 3 damage to any target? I think I'm gonna veto it. Yeah, I think so. Aven of Whales is a 2-mana green instant. Attacking creatures get +1/+1 until end turn. Cool. Overload 2. Okay. You may cast a spell for its overload cost. If you do, change its text by replacing all instances of target with each. This card has no instances of target. This is like basically that same card we saw earlier, right? 2 mana, give everything +1/+1, but it has some other part of the card that doesn't function. Is that enough to just re-roll it because it doesn't function? Even though the other half of the card does function? I think so! I think we have to keep rolling this! The Blazing Spear, called Avian of Whales, which is Different spelling, but okay. Still cleaves its way through the Rime Pass, inspiring fear in the mind of the dead. Spring Blossom Way is a 2-mana green instant. Return target creature you control to its owner's hand. You gain 2 life. Being able to return something to your hand so you can play it again is sometimes useful. You'd much rather, in most situations, exile it and return to the battlefield, so you just get that free ETB effect. And this is kind of the going rate for that effect. I feel like actually bouncing it to your hand so you can cast it again is almost always just not worth it. Maybe it is sometimes, but I don't think so. It does give you 2 life, which is relevant because it's an activator sometimes. So maybe there's some use cases. I can't even think of really powerful enter the battlefield effects that you'd want to get double up on anyway. And you're not even double A on them. You have to pay for them the second time. Like, Every plant is linked to the rest by a thin green rope. Amicia, farmer. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. It's not going to be a satisfying conclusion. This is going to be like a really anticlimactic ending to this video, but that's okay. Crowning Tutor is a 2-mana green instant. Prevent the next X target spells from being cast this turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. Draw a card. Wait, what? So I don't think this is an effect that has precedent in Magic. My interpretation of this is anything already on the stack, I think, was already cast. It just hasn't resolved. So it wouldn't prevent those things. Like, I think I like this? How would that... What does that mean? Ah, no! It's so cool, but I don't think it works. You cast this. Does that mean if you try and cast a spell, it just doesn't get cast? Do you still spend the mana? Do you basically just say, I cast this spell, oh I can't, okay, I don't cast the spell. And then you do that 3 times, and then you can cast spells? Or does it mean that, like, every time you try and cast a spell, it gets, like, countered for 3 times? Like, wow. That card's so cool that I don't want to re-roll it. And I don't think it's, like, it might not even be broken. It's kind of like 2 mana, you can't cast spells for the rest of the turn or something, which would be pretty... That'd be broken. But yeah, that's broken. Never mind. Never mind. That's actually super broken. Doesn't matter. It's too broken anyway. We've got there. Kyle, be grateful you're still a living target. Hapatra, matchmaker. All right. I wonder how you could make that... That's such an interesting effect. I feel like there's gotta be a way of making that like an interesting, useful, balanced effect. You'd have to add rules to Magic, like just it's not supported, but... Huh. Honor Amongst Thieves is a 2-mana green instant. Reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land card, put it into your hand. Otherwise, put it into your graveyard. Then draw a card. This card's beautiful. This card's maybe even too good for green. This card's great. I love this. This is great. If it is a land, you get to draw a land and the next card in your deck. If it's not, you put it in your graveyard, which you might care about. There are things that care about stuff going into your graveyard. And then you still get to draw a card anyway. This card's great. This card's so good. Oh, wow. I'm actually super happy with this. It took a long time, but I'm not like, yeah, it's fine. I guess we'll accept it. No, I actually really like this design. Inquisitors are hard to catch, but they always know who they are. Sometimes when I make it, or not me, I don't, I'm going to reiterate, I don't do anything here. I'm just hitting buttons. Anyway, whenever a card like this shows up, there's a part of me that wonders, is this just a real card? Like, is there a card, like, it's so simple, this card might just exist, and I'd be, so interesting. I'll be looking into this on my own time after the fact. Hope everyone enjoyed the video. This was all of the red and green cards from... The set name's so long. These are all of the red and green cards from Lords of the Rime, Soldiers of Core, and Dragons. I don't think we saw any green core, which is interesting. I feel like if core was going to be in any color other than white, it'd probably be in green. But as we saw earlier, corrupted elves might be core. They're not green anymore. They stopped being green. I think that's what's going on here. So I'm very excited. I think that's really interesting. Next time, we will be making the multicolor cards. Depending on how much time we have, we might also be going into the colorless. I cannot say one way or the other. So we're getting to the end of this set. It's much faster than Gods of Winter was for two reasons. One, I'm just trying to go faster. And two, there's like 100 cards less in the set, I think, about that. Because the additional sets in the same block seem to be more like expansions than full sets themselves. So, with all that said, have a great night. I've been DarcyBits. This has been Urza's AI. Check out the Discord. Check out the site yourself, urzas.ai. And I'll see you next time. I might have snapped my fingers too much.